Chapter 756. However, Zhao sneered, "Isn't it too early to be happy now? Don't forget that the soul-seizing palace's elder still hasn't inspected the top 10. These words caused the members of the Yuan clan to stiffen. They had indeed been overjoyed. How could they have forgotten about this matter? "Welcome, Elder Liao." Zhao and the red-nosed middle-aged man walked onto the stage and shouted toward the backstage of the martial arts arena. Patriarch Yuan's expression changed slightly. He immediately went forward and kneeled on one knee. Defeating Armies, who was below the stage, wore a grave expression. "This is bad. I'm afraid things aren't looking good. That Elder Liao has a secret relationship with the Elixir Production Alliance. Even though he won't affect the fairness of the competition, he has the final say in the inspection. If he feels that Zhao Yin's talent is more outstanding, then this bet between our two sides can be considered a draw. We can't get the market and they can't get the old man." The faces of the Yuan family members, who had been dancing with joy just a moment ago, instantly darkened. Most of their joy had been washed away. Su Yu's gaze became grave as he wondered, "Elder Liao? It couldn't be such a coincidence, right?" As everyone respectfully welcomed him, a demonic cloud descended from the sky, and a shriveled old man wearing a black robe walked out from the demonic cloud. He had a faint smile on his face as he looked down on everyone. "Greetings to the soul-seizing palace's elder." All of the martial artists present were extremely respectful, and they greeted him in unison. Elder Liao seemed to be enjoying such a scene. When his gaze fell on the stage, he glanced at the unconscious Zhao Yin and the pale Zhao. His eyebrows shot up as he analyzed the situation in an instant. Strange. Did the Elixir Production Alliance lose the bet? Even Zhao Yin was defeated so miserably. Could it be that the Yuan family has produced a ruthless character? Elder Liao thought to himself. At the same time, he glanced in the direction of the Yuan clan and searched through the crowd. Suddenly, he found a white-haired old man. His pupils shrank and flames of greed burned in his eyes, as if he had seen crystals rolling towards him. Last time, Su Yu was wearing a bamboo hat, so he didn't know that Su Yu had already aged from a young man to an old man. He locked his eyes on Su Yu, and he couldn't help but want to attack and capture him alive. However, as he was sizing Su Yu up, he met his gaze. Calm and collected, with the confidence of being invincible in the world. This pair of eyes seemed somewhat familiar. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. "Am I that good-looking?" The voice was extremely abruptly sounding out from his mind. Elder Liao's body trembled in fear as he exclaimed, "Master, no, Gongzi, it's you? Where are you?" Su Yu was using the soul imprint to communicate with him. Su Yu replied calmly, "Aren't you looking at me?" "Looking at you?" Elder Liao's whole body shivered as he looked at Su Yu, who wore a faint smile. "Are you the master?" Elder Liao stared at Su Yu in disbelief. Su Yu replied calmly, "Yes, something happened to my body, and that's why I became old." "Why? Are you looking for me?" "It's really him." Elder Liao felt like killing himself. He cried, "Young master, you should have told me in advance. You scared me to death." He had thought that he would be able to earn tens of millions of crystal stones by finding a wanted criminal in the Central Plains, but who would have thought that he would actually find that little fiend? That's right, that little fiend. When he was just about to explain it to him through his soul, Zhao suddenly asked him in an odd tone, "Elder Liao, are you all right?" Elder Liao's whole body started twitching, as if he was having an epileptic fit. Su Yu furrowed his brows and said, "Fine, let's first settle the matter in front of us." Elder Liao felt like he had just been pardoned, and as he looked at Su Yu and the Yuan family's seats, he understood everything. He then turned around and said, "The top 10 people, come up here. I'll test them one by one." The hearts of the Yuan family's master and the other Yuan family members sank. This so-called test was just an abuse of power. If the Yuan family's master wasn't afraid of his status, he would have tried to reason with him on the spot. However, how could a soul-seizing palace's elder be reasonable? The crowd went back to the stage and lined up according to their rankings. He looked at the 10th person with a sharp gaze, then said, "It's impossible." After he passed the 2nd person, he shook his head calmly. The 3rd person shook his head. The 4th person, just like before, none of them were valued in the later stages of the test. After all, a person's martial arts prowess was a combination of all aspects, and it could decide everything. This continued until the 8th person, Yuan Wanbi, who was ranked 3rd. Her heart thumped slightly, and she tried her best to look calm and beautiful. She hoped that she would be able to make herself look better. As Elder Liao walked past her, he hesitated for a moment and wondered, "Should I help this Yuan family member?" However, after he thought about it for a moment, he felt that it was inappropriate. After all, if her master wanted him to help her, he wouldn't have stayed silent. Such a short pause caused everyone's hearts to clench. Could it be that Yuan Wanbi's heart rose to her throat? Could it be that it's impossible? Elder Liao's face was expressionless as he walked past Yuan Wanbi, who had a frozen smile on her face. The next person to go was Zhao Yin. The Yuan family's master sighed inwardly. He knew that with Zhao Yin's talent, it would be difficult for him to overlook such a genius, even if he was Elder Liao. Hence, it was reasonable for him to be chosen as an extra. In fact, it couldn't be said that the Elixir Production Alliance was biased towards him. Zhao Yinghao heaved a sigh of relief. It was fortunate that Zhao Yin's martial arts prowess was outstanding, and he didn't embarrass him. Even though he couldn't defeat the old man, he still managed to preserve the market. If they really lost the market, the Elixir Production Alliance's losses would be immeasurable, and they might even suffer a great blow. Their thoughts were similar to those of the other martial artists present. However, in the next moment, Elder Liao ignored the unconscious Zhao Yin, who was lying on the ground, and went straight to Yuan Yingying's side. He wore a smile on his face and praised her. "Not bad, young lady. You managed to defeat a 2 crystals fairy realm expert with just a 3 crystals half fairy realm cultivation. In the soul-seizing palace, only the famous disciples in its history were able to achieve such a feat. I have high hopes for you, and if you continue to work hard in the soul-seizing palace, I will recommend you to enter the inner sanctum." What? Not only did he ignore Zhao Yin, but he even praised Yuan Yingying. Everyone's pupils contracted when they heard that Elder Liao was going to recommend her to enter the inner sanctum. The inner sanctum was like a legend to the Blue Mountain Ranges factions. It was rumored that the disciples who entered the inner sanctum would have a meteoric rise in the future, and their cultivation would at least reach the almighty divine master realm. Even if they weren't strong enough, they could still easily reach the late stage of the fairy realm. Anyone who could enter the inner sanctum to further their cultivation was definitely a dragon among men. However, the most important matter was that one needed a recommendation to enter the inner sanctum. All of the soul-seizing palace's outer sanctum elders had a recommendation quota. They would usually only give this quota to their disciples in name, and they would never give it to an outsider. Even the Elixir Production Alliance didn't have such a privilege. The crowd felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Did the soul-seizing palace's Elder Liao run into a demon today? It wasn't a secret that he had a good relationship with the Elixir Production Alliance. However, he had ignored Zhao Yin today and had even given the Yuan family a great favor. It was as if the sun had just risen from the west. It wasn't just them, as even the Yuan family's master, as well as the Yuan family's core elders, were dumbfounded. This matter's development was unconstrained, and it left them confused and bewildered. The Yuan family's master widened his eyes. He couldn't help but wonder. Did Elder Liao forget to take his medicine when he went out this morning? Zhao Yinghao was also dumbfounded. He wondered, what kind of trick is Elder Liao playing? Is he playing hard to get? Yuan Wanbi was also dumbfounded. Inner sanctum. Is my sister going to enter the inner sanctum? she will soar into the sky. Even the Shangguan family might not be a match for the soul-seizing palace's inner sanctum. She felt as if she could see her sister soaring into the sky, while she could only stand on the ground and look up at her like an ordinary person. It was just as her sister had said. There would come a day when she would look up at her sister and ask her to recognize her as her elder sister. Yuan Yingying was quite calm and composed. It seemed like she had just experienced a lot of pleasant surprises, and her state of mind was quite calm. Elder Liao, many thanks for your concern. I will always remember it. Yuan Yingying saluted him. Elder Liao chuckled while he thought inwardly. Young master, my performance was quite good. I have already given enough face to the Yuan family. However, someone suddenly spoke at such an inopportune time. Elder Liao, it seems like you still haven't examined my son, Zhao Yin, Zhao Yinghao reminded him. Elder Liao's expression stiffened, and anger welled up in his heart. Why is this guy so cold? Can't he see that I'm acting like a grandson? Elder Liao steeled his heart and asked in a deep voice, Who? Zhao Yin? Is he the guy who was beaten unconscious? Our soul-seizing palace doesn't dare to accept a genius like him. Upon hearing this, everyone was bewildered. Did the Yuan family give Elder Liao great benefits so that he would join the Yuan family? At this moment, Zhao Yinghao finally realized that Elder Liao wasn't scheming against him. He had truly joined the Yuan family. When Zhao Yinghao was just about to argue with him, he discovered that Elder Liao's back was facing the audience, and he was signaling him with his eyes. Zhao Yinghao's heart shook and he wondered, is he being held hostage, or is there a terrifying expert in the audience that forced Elder Liao to act like this? Zhao Yinghao was startled, and he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He felt slightly better now, as Elder Liao hadn't joined the Yuan family, and he had done this for a reason. The Yuan family's master smiled and said, Zhao Yinghao, since this is the case, shouldn't our bet come into effect? Upon hearing this, Zhao Yinghao felt humiliated, and he was filled with hatred. After all, the Yuan family's power would surely grow after the death of the market, and it would be difficult for them to suppress the Yuan family. However, Elder Liao was now being threatened by someone, and he couldn't help him, so he could only swallow his resentment. I'm a man of my word, so take it. These are all of the market's land deed. Zhao Yinghao threw a large pile of land deeds at the Yuan family's master. The Yuan family's master caught them with a smile, and he felt extremely carefree. After being suppressed for half a century, he had finally managed to turn the tables. Let's go. Zhao Yinghao was infuriated, and he left with Zhao Yin. Before leaving, he took a deep look at Yuan Yingying and Su Yu. One of them was the Yuan family's peerless genius, while the other was a wanted criminal in the central prefecture. Chapter 757. The Yuan family's patriarch caught sight of Zhao Yinghao's gaze, so he led Yuan Yingying down the stage and instructed, from today onwards, Yingying will move to the courtyard next to mine. Cabinet elders, please protect Yingying as well. I'm sure that Zhao Yinghao won't give up on his evil intentions, so he'll try to assassinate Yingying. Today, the Yuan family had won a great victory, so it would be strange if the Elixir Production Alliance was willing to let this matter rest. Since the market was a public transaction, they naturally wouldn't snatch it back. The only person who was in danger was Yuan Yingying. Family head, we need to urgently recruit experts. Otherwise, if the Elixir Production Alliance doesn't hesitate to use a large number of experts, it will be difficult for the Yuan family to obtain the second young miss, Pajuan said. The Elixir Production Alliance was too powerful, and it would be difficult for the Yuan family to support it. Then, go and do it immediately. Regardless of whether you want elixirs or crystals, don't hesitate to ask all of the experts in the city to escort Yingying until she enters the soul-seizing palace. The Yuan family's master had always been very daring. Yingying was his most beloved daughter, and even though she was the soul-seizing palace's outer sanctum's disciple, and she even had the terrifying potential of being recommended by Elder Liao in the inner sanctum, He still had to protect her, even if he had to sacrifice half of the Yuan family's power. At this moment, the Yuan family was united. Once the second miss really entered the soul-seizing palace, she would definitely become an expert who could call the wind and summon the rain in the future. Not to mention the small blue mountain range, it might even be possible for the Yuan family to rule over a small area in the future. Many people gazed at Yuan Yingying, and they couldn't help but sigh with emotion in their hearts. In just a month, she had transformed from an ugly duckling that had been ignored by her family into an outstanding genius that could tear open the sky of the Blue Mountain Range. Her transformation was so great that they felt as if they were dreaming. Of course, the Yuan family naturally attributed her change to that senior god master, who had a good eye for talent and picked up Yingying, this precious gem, from the dust. Like a princess, Yuan Yingying, who was the center of attention, was extremely calm. She subconsciously looked behind her. However, there was nothing behind her. Su Yu had disappeared. Su Yu was standing outside the Elixir Production Alliance's glorious gate, while his eyes flickered with a cold glint. Why had Zhao Yin specifically asked for him, and why had he felt so uneasy ever since? This required an explanation. But right at this moment, a beautiful figure flashed over and stood in front of him. She was tall and had a beautiful face. Her eyes were as bright as snow, and her skin was as smooth as cream. Her breasts were perky, and her waist was thin like a bee. At first glance, she was a rare beauty in the world. "Eldest miss, what's the matter?" Su Yu asked. Yuan Wanbi looked at Su Yu and said, "I want to talk to you. Can we talk in private?" Su Yu furrowed his brows. After thinking for a moment, he decided to follow them. After they reached a dark alley, Yuan Wanbi got straight to the point and asked, "Senior, it was you who helped my younger sister, wasn't it?" Su Yu didn't reply. He didn't admit or deny it. "All of my sister's changes started after she met you. At first, I also thought that an almighty divine master had secretly taught her, but thinking about it carefully, even if an almighty divine master had appeared, didn't he only appear after you? I don't believe it. Everything is so coincidental. Before you appeared, my sister was mediocre and inferior to me in every aspect. How could an almighty divine master suddenly appear and help her like that? I think there must be another explanation. It was only today, when I saw my sister's performance, that I suddenly realized that the one who really changed my sister wasn't some almighty divine master, but you. That's because she's never mentioned Master God. Instead, she calls him Uncle Su." She then added, "So, the so-called almighty divine master is just a fake, and it was you who helped my sister, isn't it?" Su Yu didn't try to hide it anymore. "Yes, that's right. So what? Did you come here just to tell me this, or to kill me to vent your anger?" Delight appeared on Yuan Wanbi's face, as if she had expected this. "No. Senior, you're too powerful, as you can even control Elder Liao." She was really smart, as no one could understand Elder Liao's strange behavior today. Only she could guess that it was Su Yu. "According to what I know, Elder Liao's status in the soul-seizing palace isn't low, and even a divine master might not be able to threaten him. So, why would I dare to harm you?" Yuan Wanbi said. Su Yu furrowed his brows. "Then, why did you come here?" Yuan Wanbi suddenly revealed a charming smile and walked toward Su Yu. As her faint fragrance entered his nose, she extended her finger and started tracing on his chest. The warmth of her finger, as well as the movement of her finger, gave off an alluring aura. Her eyes were filled with a seductive charm as she exhaled, "You were able to mold my ordinary little sister into a peerless genius, so you will definitely be able to mold me into an even more outstanding one. I'm better than my little sister in everything, and I'm even more obedient than my little sister." As she spoke, she slowly leaned into Su Yu's embrace. Her delicate body was deeply embraced by Su Yu, and her voluptuous chest was firmly pressed against him. Su Yu curled the corners of his mouth into a mocking smile. "Eldest miss, Are you really willing to give yourself to an old man like me? My body is just a bag of skin, so I don't care about it. Senior, can you help me? Yuan Wanbi wrapped her snow-white arms around Su Yu's neck and kissed him lightly. All of a sudden, a wave of vigorous vital energy surged out of Su Yu's body and shook her off forcefully. Su Yu's gaze was ice-cold and filled with disdain as he said, "A person must have self-respect in order to be respected by others. I'm sorry, but I won't help you." After he spoke, Su Yu turned around and left. Yuan Wanbi's pretty face became flushed. She was embarrassed, aggrieved, and unwilling. "What's so good about my sister? Why are you helping her and not helping me? It's obvious that I ran into you first, so why are you taking revenge on me for such a small misunderstanding?" Su Yu didn't even turn his head around as he calmly replied, "It's true that she isn't as good as you in many aspects, but there's one thing that you can never compare to, and that is her conscience." After he spoke, Su Yu's body disappeared into the dark alley. Yuan Wanbi looked at Su Yu's back with hatred in her eyes. "Su Yuxian, I, Yuan Wanbi, swear that I won't let you off. You humiliated me and caused me to fall from being the Yuan family's genius to my current state. It's all because of you. Once I become the Shangguan family's woman, the first thing I will do is come back and execute my sister. Then, I will put a bounty on your head to wash away the humiliation I suffered today." Her voice reverberated in the empty alley. A person wearing a white feather cloak silently streaked across the sky above the alley. At the Elixir Production Alliance, Zhao Yinghao's expression was gloomy as he sat beside his son's bed. He asked in a deep voice, "Have you gathered all the members?" The red-nosed middle-aged man, who was sitting opposite him, had an evil glint in his eyes as he said, 50 fairies, 503 crystals half-fairies, and 2 middle-stage fairies like you and me. We will take action after nightfall." What's the Yuan family's reaction? Surely they know about such a great mobilization of people? Zhao Yinghao asked. The red-nosed middle-aged man sneered coldly. How could they not know? Right after they left the martial arts arena, they spent a large sum of money to hire martial artists from the Blue Mountain Range. I even arranged for several fairies to sneak into the Yuan family to give them a pleasant surprise. Zhao Yinghao's expression was gloomy, while flames of anger surged in his eyes. Humph! They caused our Yuan family to suffer such a great loss, so how could they not sacrifice anything? Since we have gathered so many experts, even if we can't destroy the Yuan family in a short time, we can at least kill that little girl. The red-nosed middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, then asked, "Shouldn't we ask Elder Liao about this? After all, Elder Liao's attitude towards this matter isn't clear." Zhao Yinghao shook his head. No need. It seems like Elder Liao has something that he can't disclose. If we go and kill her secretly, he can tell the people who kidnapped him that he didn't know about it. If we inform him now, I'm afraid that it won't be good. He then added, "No matter what, the Yuan family's little girl must be killed. She has such great talent, so we can't let her live." Zhao Yinghao's killing intent was extremely strong. If she isn't as good as Zhao Yin, even if she enters the soul-seizing palace, I can still tolerate her. After all, she will be our Zhao family's woman in the future, so we can control her. But, with such talent, she will surely become a dragon among men. Moreover, the Yuan family is against us, so we can only let Zhao Yin suffer a little and arrange another marriage for him. Oh! At this moment, Zhao Yin, who was still unconscious, woke up. "Father, where am I?" Zhao Yinghao's face lit up. "Yin, it's great that you are fine." Zhao Yin, who was still in a daze, listened to Zhao Yinghao's narration. When he found out that he had lost his right to enter the soul-seizing palace's outer sanctum, his vision darkened, and he almost fainted once again. Impossible! I worked hard for more than 10 years just for this day. Did it all go to waste? Yin, don't worry, I will take revenge for you. After nightfall, we will take revenge on the Yuan family and kill that slut Yuan Yingying. She dared to injure you and caused you to miss out on such a great opportunity, Zhao Yinghao said. Zhao Yin's heart was filled with hatred, and his veins bulged as he held the bedsheet tightly. A cold glint appeared in his eyes as he said, "That slut ruined my path of martial arts, so I will make her beg for death. Father, I will go with you tonight. I want to see that slut die in front of me with my own eyes." Zhao Yinghao nodded. As the sun gradually set in the west, the sky turned bright red, and it seemed as if it had been dyed with blood. However, before they left, a guard quickly came over and said, "My lord, Elder Liao has come, and he wants you to quickly go and meet him. Also, please bring the young master with you." Delight appeared on Zhao Yinghao's face as he said, "Elder Liao has really come back. Quickly follow me. He has asked you to go with him, which means that you still have a chance of entering the soul-seizing palace." Zhao Yin's face was filled with anticipation as he said, "Okay, let's go and meet Elder Liao, then we will go and kill that slut." The three of them then rushed to the conference hall in a grandiose manner. If Elder Liao wanted to meet them, he would usually meet them in this hall, and they would know where to go even if he didn't tell them the location. The heavy gate opened and the three of them entered with smiles on their faces. However, when they looked over, their expressions changed at the same time. Every time Elder Liao came, he would naturally sit on the highest seat, as if he was the master of the hall, and he would look down on them. However, at this moment, Elder Liao was respectfully standing behind the main seat. Moreover, a stranger was sitting on the main seat. No, it wasn't a stranger. It was another old man. He had a pale face and white hair, and he wore an elegant robe. His long white hair was neatly tied up, and his mustache was fluttering in the wind. He seemed like a mysterious old man, and he gave people the illusion that he was an immortal. Chapter 758. It's you. Zhao Yin, Zhao Yinghao, and the red-nosed middle-aged man all cried out in alarm. Isn't this the wanted criminal they were looking for? Why did he appear in the Elixir Production Alliance's hall? Moreover, why is Elder Liao standing behind him respectfully like a servant? At that instant, the three's hearts skipped a beat, as an unbelievable thought flashed across their minds. Could it be that the person who threatened Elder Liao was this Yuan family's old man? "Who are you?" Zhao Yinghao's expression became calm as he shouted in a low voice. Su Yu looked down at them from above, his deep eyes causing the three of them to be shocked at the same time. As they looked at Su Yu's current appearance, the three of them felt like they were meeting a king. His bearing was extraordinary. "I'm just a floor sweeper," Su Yu replied, then looked at Elder Liao. "Since he's here, you can tell me." Elder Liao bowed to him, then took out a scroll from his pocket and passed it to Su Yu. "Young master, please have a look at it." Su Yu took it and unfurled it. He was slightly startled by what he saw. There was a person in the scroll, and it looked exactly like Su Yu's current appearance. There were several conspicuous words at the top of the scroll. "Wanted criminal. Anyone who kills him will be rewarded with 10 million crystals." This is the wanted poster sent to me by the Soul-Seizing Palace 5 days ago. After I received it, I immediately sent people to look for you. Zhao Yin said that he had seen you before, but you were hiding in the Yuan family's residence, so he didn't want to alert you. So, he challenged you on purpose to capture you, then take your life and bring you back to the Soul-Seizing Palace. At that time, I didn't know that it was you, young master. Please forgive me. Elder Liao wanted to curse them. Did those idiots in the sanctum not pay for the death of an elder? Su Yu was slightly curious, as he didn't remember that he had appeared in the Soul-Seizing Palace. Is this the Central Prefecture's King's wanted poster? Su Yu asked. Elder Liao nodded. Yes, young master. It's indeed the Central Prefecture's King's wanted poster. I seem to remember that the 18 blessed and heavenly lands and the Central Prefecture are enemies, so why would the Central Prefecture's King's wanted poster be posted in the Soul-Seizing Palace? Su Yu asked as he squinted his eyes. Elder Liao swept Zhao Yin and his two companions with a cold gaze, then spoke in a low voice. Our soul-seizing palace is situated at the border of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and the palace master wants us to please both sides. The meaning was clear. The soul-seizing palace was swaying between two sides, and they would side with whoever offered them more benefits. Then what's with this portrait? The Central Prefecture's king has only seen a portrait of me when I was young, so he doesn't know what I look like now, Su Yu said. Elder Liao blushed with shame. It's the soul-seizing palace's palace master, and he's proficient in an ancient mysterious technique. He can simulate a person's current state decades later, and as long as he has seen a portrait of you when you were young, it wouldn't be difficult for him to simulate your current state. Soul-seizing palace master? Su Yu's gaze turned cold. He is a loyal dog. You are working so hard for the Central Prefecture's king. How many of these wanted posters are left? Su Yu's heart sank as he wondered. Does this mean that I still have to change my appearance in the future? Elder Liao shook his head. Not much. The soul-seizing palace is, after all, part of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and it's under the jurisdiction of the Red Blood Palace. This is why we don't dare to openly help the Central Prefecture's king in order to capture you. Only a few people in the palace know about your current appearance, and I'm the only outer sanctum elder who knows about it. As for the others, only the palace master and the 9 great inner sanctum elders know about it. As for the others, they don't know anything about it. Our search was carried out in secret, and we didn't dare to let any of the disciples know about it. Otherwise, once the news leaked, the soul-seizing palace would lose its reputation as the Central Prefecture's lackey. This meant that there weren't more than 10 people in the soul-seizing palace who knew about it, and they didn't dare to let any of their disciples know about it, not even their direct disciples. After all, if this matter was leaked, then the Red Blood Palace would surely slaughter them. The Red Blood Palace was one of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands' 2 great factions, and it ruled over all the factions under it. The soul-seizing palace was under the jurisdiction of the Red Blood Palace, and as a demonic faction, the Red Blood Palace wouldn't show any mercy. This way, Su Yu could relax a little. As long as he didn't run into any of the soul-seizing palace's inner sanctum elders, he wouldn't face any danger. However, the soul-seizing palace's master had dared to work for the Central Prefecture's king, and he had even imitated his current appearance and put him in danger. This also explained why Zhao Yin had made him feel so uneasy. It was all because he had been exposed and danger was approaching. As long as Su Yu didn't get close to the soul-seizing palace, he wouldn't be detected. The only people in the Blue Mountain Range who knew about this wanted poster were the people in front of him. They were Elder Liao, Zhao Yin and his son, the red-nosed middle-aged man, and their bodyguards. Elder Liao's whole body shuddered, and his expression became more unsightly than a pig's liver. He didn't even dare to breathe loudly as he waited for Su Yu's decision. "Tell me, what should I do?" Su Yu asked calmly as he took a sip of his tea. Elder Liao clenched his teeth, and his heart shuddered. "Kill them." Su Yu replied calmly, "Since you already know, why don't you do it? Remember, apart from you, don't leave anyone alive." His last words made Elder Liao heave a sigh of relief, as his young master had decided to spare his life. When Zhao Hao and the others saw that the situation was anything but reassuring, their expressions changed drastically. "Let's leave quickly. Elder Liao has betrayed us, so quickly inform the soul-seizing palace." Zhao Hao was startled, as he couldn't believe that this sage-like old man had unexpectedly fought with the Central Prefecture's king. After all, he was a king who ruled over Jiuzhou. Swoosh! The 3 of them instantly rushed out of the palace and fled in 3 different directions. This was the only way they could inform the Central Prefecture of Elder Liao's betrayal. Elder Liao's expression changed, as he knew that this would be troublesome. He wasn't sure whether he could kill all 3 of them, as Zhao Hao and the red-nosed middle-aged man's cultivations weren't low. However, right at this moment, a wine-red radiance appeared. Zhao Yin and the other 2, who had already escaped, were teleported back to the palace by spatial power. A spatial magical ability? Elder Liao was startled, as he couldn't believe that he still had such a trump card up his sleeve. However, he still relaxed slightly, as he knew that he might be able to kill all three of them. Zhao Hao and the other two felt their blood run cold. What kind of magical power was this? Seeing that Elder Liao was about to charge at him, Zhao Hao gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go all out. Let's stop Elder Liao first. As long as we can alert the guards outside, it's only a matter of time before we get reinforcements, and we can subdue him." Elder Liao frowned. He was not confident that he could deal with all three of them in a short period of time. "Finish the battle quickly," Su Yu, who was sitting on the host's seat, said indifferently. Elder Liao felt bitter in his heart. "Aren't you making things difficult for me?" However, what happened next shocked Elder Liao even more. Behind him, a purple light swept across the hall. Apart from him, time froze. The falling dust in the air was slow, as if it had stopped. Zhao Yin and the other two took a defensive stance, but they did not move at all, as if they were puppets. At this moment, he seemed to have fallen into a frozen space-time river. "What are you hesitating for?" A faint voice came from behind him. Elder Liao shuddered, and he was overwhelmed with shock. It was him. He was the one who had created the time freeze space. This was a domain that only all creation's old monsters possessed. However, even so, he had never heard of anyone being able to create a time domain. Elder Liao's fear of Su Yu rose to an unprecedented level. His gaze became ice-cold as he rushed toward the three people and said, "It's better for you to die than for me. I'm sorry." Bang! He condensed a mass of demonic energy on his fingertip, then streaked it across the three people's necks, causing their heads to soar into the sky. At this moment, the time power dissipated, and the three people's heads floated in the air. They looked at the ground, which was gradually disappearing into the distance. Even before they lost consciousness, they still did not know what had happened. In an instant, the Elixir Production Alliance's two strongest experts, who were both middle-stage alchemists, had been killed. Su Yu stood up and clasped his hands behind his back as he walked out of the room. Every step he took left an afterimage behind him, and in the twinkling of an eye, the whole place was filled with Su Yu's afterimages. As a wind blew over, all of his afterimages disappeared, and Su Yu's body also disappeared. Only a faint voice was left behind, "Kill all the remaining people who knew about this." Elder Liao was extremely respectful, and his gaze became ice-cold as he started a massacre. The Yuan family was solemnly waiting for him. The sky outside the residence was filled with countless experts, and they were like a dense swarm of bees. Inside Yuan Yingying's mansion, countless experts had tightly sealed off Yuan Yingying's courtyard. Even a fly wouldn't be able to fly past them. The Yuan family was facing a great enemy. Everyone, from the family master to the servants, was anxiously waiting for the Elixir Production Alliance's revenge. They had already received news that the Elixir Production Alliance had gathered a large number of experts, and once night fell, they would launch their attack. It had already been more than 100 years since the two factions had fought each other head-on in such a grand manner. This night was destined to be a sleepless one, and it was also destined to be an unforgettable one in the Blue Mountain Range. The nearby streets were closed by themselves, and everyone had fled to avoid the bloody battle between the two great factions. Only the whistling sound of the wind could be heard in the empty street. The oppressive atmosphere caused the Yuan family's surroundings to descend into a deathly stillness. Finally, the sky turned dark. The last ray of sunlight disappeared from the horizon. In the Yuan family's residence, a bonfire gradually rose, illuminating every corner. They were all waiting for a long and cruel battle to begin. However, this wait lasted for 6 hours. More than half of the night had passed, and a ray of white light appeared on the horizon. "Family Master, something is amiss. The Elixir Production Alliance hasn't made any moves for the whole night." Could it be that they are deliberately using a trick to make us exhausted before attacking? Defeating armies pondered as he stroked his beard. The Yuan family master's facial muscles twitched, and he was extremely angry. He fiercely slammed the table and said, "Damn it! Is the Yuan family only allowed to be so passive?" The answer was, of course, to be passive. Continue to wait. Don't let your guard down, as the enemy will attack when you think it's the safest time. The Yuan family master said. Everyone could only strengthen their spirits and wait meticulously. All of a sudden, a figure slowly appeared on the empty and deathly silent street. The guard in the sky immediately woke up with a start. Someone is coming from the street. The Yuan family members immediately became vigilant. There was no one on the street, so who would appear at this time? Even if that person appeared, he would still be walking toward the Yuan family's residence. This was definitely unusual. He seems to be the Yuan family's sweeper, the old man that the second young miss brought back, the guard said. Chapter 759. The servants of the Yuan family were both respectful and jealous of this servant, who was doted on by the second Mississippi. When the second miss was in dire straits, no matter how well the second miss treated him, she did not envy him at all. In fact, she even avoided him. After all, she had been ostracized quite a bit in the clan. If the master was like this, what good could come out of being her servant? However, it was different now. The second miss had soared into the sky, and she had become the Yuan family's first heavenly daughter. In the future, she might even enter the soul-seizing palace's inner sanctum. Now, everyone in the Yuan family treated her like a little ancestor. Her status as a servant was probably even higher than that of a young master of a branch family. It was to the extent that even the core elders of the clan had to pay attention to him in order to avoid offending that little ancestor. Under the crowd's gaze, Su Yu slowly entered the Yuan manor. "Where did you go yesterday?" the Yuan family head asked in an annoyed tone. His tone was somewhat restrained, not daring to reprimand him too deeply. "When my daughter was at her lowest point, it was this loyal and devoted old servant who accompanied her. It was reasonable for the Yuan family's master to blame him." Su Yu said, "I did some errands for you, and I'm done with them now." As he spoke, he looked at the nervous experts in the sky and said in surprise, "What's going on? A demon is here?" The Yuan family's master glared at him. He was still in the mood to make sarcastic remarks at such a time. "Hurry up and go inside. The Elixir Production Alliance will arrive soon." Su Yu was startled. "What? Elixir Production Alliance? I heard that the Elixir Production Alliance is in a mess, and a group of intermediate alchemists is running away with their belongings. If you have time, you should go and accompany Yingying. I don't have time to waste with you." The Yuan family's master really wanted to strangle Su Yu to death, and he couldn't help but wonder. "Old geezer, why don't you know how to read the situation? Was this the time to joke around and let everyone let down their guard?" Su Yu shook his head helplessly. "I didn't lie." The Yuan family head waved his hand and said, "Hurry up and go in. Even our Yuan family's spies don't know about it, but you know about it first." At that moment, a figure clad in blue robes flew over from the horizon. It was the Elixir Production Alliance's spy. "This is bad, Patriarch. The Elixir Production Alliance is on fire. Everything is on fire. The Alliance's martial artists are in chaos. They're all snatching things and running for their lives." His expression was as if he had seen the sun rise from the west. "What? Say that again." Clan head Yuan grabbed him by the collar. He couldn't believe his ears. The spy had been running all the way here and was exhausted like a dead dog. But when Yuan family head pinched him, he almost died. Cough cough. "Family head, they are fighting among themselves. There are so many people running." After confirming that there were no mistakes, the head of the Yuan clan waited patiently for a moment. At this time, 3 or 4 figures flew over from all directions. There were other spies, and there were also forces that were on good terms with the Yuan family. They all came to report. Only then did the head of the Yuan clan completely believe him. If it was just a spy, he would definitely suspect that it was a ploy by the Elixir Production Alliance to lure him away. There was no doubt that something had happened to the Elixir Production Alliance. Half of you follow me. If this matter is true, our Yuan family will undergo a great change. The Yuan family's head suppressed his pounding heart as he led his people to the Elixir Production Alliance. As expected, it was a sea of flames and there were Alliance members fleeing everywhere. Among them, there were a few familiar middle-stage alchemists. Whoosh! The Yuan family grabbed an intermediate alchemist and asked loudly, "What happened? Where are those two old fools?" The middle-stage alchemist's face turned bitter as he said, "Yuan family's master, please take me in." Zhao Hao and the others were all killed. They were all killed, including their personal guards and even some of their family members. The Alliance's martial artists took advantage of this opportunity to rebel, and they wantonly plundered their belongings. Several of my colleagues were innocently implicated and killed. The Yuan family's head's pupils contracted when he heard this. They were all killed? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes and heard it with his own ears, he wouldn't have believed it. However, when he recovered from his shock, he couldn't help but clap his hands and laugh. "Ah, Zhao Hao, Elixir Production Alliance, you deserve this." As he spoke, he gathered his true energy and shouted, "Everyone, stop! All the Elixir Production Alliance's belongings and members will be accepted by the Yuan family. Whoever dares to steal a crystal stone or kill a person will be killed by the Yuan family. Guards of the Yuan family, listen up! Accept the Elixir Production Alliance. Anyone who dares to resist will be killed on the spot." Thus, a large number of cultivators descended and killed the troublemakers, protected their belongings, and captured the precious intermediate alchemists. They busied themselves until noon, when they finally took over the Elixir Production Alliance. From the elixirs stored in the storage to the deeds to houses, even the former members of the Elixir Production Alliance were all accepted. "Cabinet Elder Pajuan, please be gentle. I will go and take a look at what happened." When the Yuan family's head entered the palace, he saw 3 heads. His pupils contracted slightly. 3 people were killed in an instant? Zhao Hao and the red-nosed middle-aged man were both level 6 fairies, so their fighting prowess was quite strong. However, they were still killed in one blow. Which expert did this? The Yuan family's head asked in a deep voice. Will he harm the Yuan family? His heart was in his throat once again, and when he returned to the family, he saw his eldest daughter standing in the garden. She was distressed and didn't know what to do. "Wanbi, what are you doing here? Why aren't you helping Cabinet Elder Pajuan organize the finances? You are quite good at it," the Yuan family's head said. However, it seemed like Yuan Wanbi didn't hear him, and her eyes were filled with hatred and fear. "It's him. It's surely him." She had seen Su Yu walk toward the Elixir Production Alliance with her own eyes, and the alliance had been destroyed that very night. It must have been him. She was afraid of him, but she also hated herself for being so weak and powerless to take revenge. "Wanbi, are you all right?" The Yuan family's head patted her shoulder and asked in concern. Yuan Wanbi came back to her senses and quickly hid her expression. She said, "Father, I'm all right. If you are too tired, then you should go and accompany your younger sister. After going through so much, I think that you should understand something. Fame and fortune are precious, but familial love is priceless," the Yuan family's head said meaningfully. Familial love is priceless? Yuan Wanbi thought to herself. Even though she had familial love for her father, Yuan Yingying only had hatred for him. He had taken everything from her, yet he still wanted to gain her approval? Dream on. Fine, but father, there is something I must tell you. I hope that you can make a decision quickly, Yuan Wanbi said. The Yuan family's head was startled by her words. Speak. A cold glint flickered in Yuan Wanbi's eyes as she said, I was once disrespected by Su Yuxian, and only Xiao Tao and I know about this. Once this matter spreads and the Shangguan family hears about it, my engagement with them will be ruined, and it will be difficult for me to get close to the Yuan family." Flames of anger appeared in the Yuan family's head's eyes. "What? Did he do such a thing to you? Why didn't you tell me about it earlier?" "Father, you should be asking me what we should do now. I think that we should kill him before this matter spreads." A cold glint flickered in his eyes. "Kill him?" The flames of anger in the Yuan family's head's eyes weakened slightly, and he stared at Yuan Wanbi. "What did he do to you? Tell me about it in detail, and don't try to lie to me. I know your character, and you also know my character." Yuan Wanbi's father knew that Yuan Wanbi was a scheming person, and he didn't like to deceive others. Yuan Wanbi bit her lip. Although she wanted to add fuel to the fire, she couldn't help but respect her father, so she told him everything honestly. After listening to her, the Yuan family's head's anger subsided, and he said thoughtfully, "It sounds like a misunderstanding. That person's gaze is clear and righteous, and he doesn't seem like a lecherous person." "A lecherous person? Of course he isn't." Yuan Wanbi was infuriated. If he was a lecherous person, he would have directly rejected her when she asked for him in the alley. "Father, you might know a person for a long time, but you don't know his true nature. Could it be that you—" Yuan Wanbi didn't give up. The Yuan family's head said, "Even if that's the case, he doesn't deserve death. Let me interrogate him personally." Yuan Wanbi became anxious. "Father, I'm afraid that it's too late. Even if we don't kill him, we must quickly drive him away. If the news of my reputation being tarnished spreads out, I won't be able to marry into the Shangguan family. If I can't marry, the Yuan family won't be able to get more benefit." However, her heart sank when the Yuan family's head said calmly, "It doesn't matter even if you can't marry him. I'm sure that the Shangguan family's head is already in a difficult position regarding this marriage, as he is under a lot of internal pressure. Moreover, our Yuan family has already recovered, and a genius like your sister has appeared in our family. So, let's just let this marriage take its course. If we reject you just because of a misunderstanding, then your fiancé won't be a good match for you." Yuan Wanbi's vision darkened. "My future isn't even worth mentioning in my father's eyes? Does he only care about Yuan Yingying?" Her heart was filled with grief and anger, so she turned around and rushed out. The Yuan family's head wanted to say something, but he hesitated. After he thought about it for a moment, he ordered 2 guards to follow her in secret. Worry could be seen in his eyes as he said, "I hope that she can quickly get over it." After Yuan Wanbi left for a short while, she started walking leisurely, and no one knew where she had gone. By the time she noticed it, she had already left the Blue Mountain City. Her eyes were red and swollen, and she hated Su Yu, Yuan Yingying, and even her father. None of them were willing to help her. "Su Yu Xian, Yuan Yingying, I'm irreconcilable with you." Yuan Yingying's heart was filled with boundless hatred. When her voice just echoed out, a gentle and elegant man's voice rang out in her ears. "Hee, I'm the Shangguan family's fiancé, yet I'm being bullied to such an extent?" Yuan Wanbi was startled, and when she turned her head to look, her pupils contracted. "Young Master Shangguan?" The person in front of her was a handsome youth, who was clad in luxurious white clothes. He had a jade crown on his head, red lips, and white teeth. His temperament was outstanding, and he was noble beyond words. As he stood among the crowd, he seemed like a crane among chickens, and many people who passed by him cast sidelong glances at him. "You? Why did you come here?" Yuan Wanbi's body stiffened, and she looked at the handsome youth in front of her in shock. He was the Shangguan family's young master, as well as her fiancé, Shangguan Yunk. He had unexpectedly come to the Blue Mountain Range in just a few days. Chapter 760. Yuan Wanbi was delighted at first, but then she was startled. The Yuan family? Yao Yao thought back to the events that had transpired in the Yuan family. She shook her head and said, "It has nothing to do with the Yuan family. It was my half-sister who colluded with outsiders to seize the Yuan family. Now that even father has been deceived, please don't blame the Yuan family. She still had a basic conscience, and she was afraid that Shangguan Yunk would get angry and put the whole Yuan family in a passive position. Shangguan Yunk said coldly, "Then, let me meet your sister, as well as that outsider who bullied you." Upon hearing this, Yuan Wanbi was overjoyed. Shangguan Yunk didn't just have a lofty status, he was also an extremely powerful martial arts expert. His cultivation had already reached the level 7 fairy realm, and no one in the city could rival him. Although Su Yuxian was most likely an almighty divine master, Shangguan Yunk wasn't someone to be trifled with, and he surely had some powerful treasures with him. If not, why would the Shangguan clan allow their young master to come to the Blue Mountain Ridge alone? His heart was filled with madness. Su Yuxian, Yuan Yingying, your good days are over. Yuan family. Su Yu and Yuan Yingying were sent to the central palace, where the people were busy decorating the place with lanterns and colored banners. The faces of the clansmen were filled with joy. Those who did not know would have thought that the Yuan family was having a grand wedding. Yingying, you're here. The Yuan family's head looked at the joyous Yuan mansion and felt extremely happy. The Yuan family's greatest worry, the Elixir Production Alliance, had crumbled overnight, and their beloved daughter, Yuan Yingying, had become the family's greatest female genius in its history. She would soon enter the soul-seizing palace and have a meteoric rise. Moreover, a middle-stage alchemist had appeared in the Yuan family a few days ago. Coupled with the early-stage alchemists they had plundered from the Elixir Production Alliance, the Yuan family's alchemy power had increased by several times in one go, and they had become the overlord of the whole Blue Mountain range. Father, is there a need to be so extravagant? Yuan Yingying knew that they were going to hold a banquet. The Yuan family head chuckled and said, 3 joyous events have arrived, and the Yuan family is experiencing an unprecedented grand occasion. How could we not hold a grand celebration? Yingying, you're the star of the show tonight. Go rest at the side and don't be absent. The Yuan family's patriarch chuckled as he looked around. As Su Yu looked at the Yuan family, he knew that it was time for him to leave. He would leave quietly when there were too many eyes. The Yuan family had completely occupied the Blue Mountain range, so Yuan Yingying wouldn't have to worry about her future. The only thing that displeased Su Yu was the fact that she wanted to go to the soul-seizing palace, which really displeased him. Since the soul-seizing palace's master had placed him at the edge of danger, he would have to settle the score with him sooner or later. The crowd ran around in a jubilant mood. However, right at this moment, a soft shout that shook the entire Yuan family came from outside the gate. Yuan family, listen up. Tell Yuan Yingying and Su Yuxian to come out. The Yuan clan members were enraged by this shout. Impudent! Their Yuan family was like the sun at high noon, and it was a festive time for them to hold a banquet. How could they shout like this? What would happen to the Yuan family's reputation then? Defeating armies' face darkened. Men, capture him! Immediately, a group of ferocious martial artists wanted to rush out. Wait, don't attack. The one who came is very strong. The Yuan family head stretched out his hand to stop them. His eyes were extremely solemn. Su Yu stood up slowly and looked outside the manor. He furrowed his brows slightly and said, An expert has really come, and his aura isn't that of an ordinary fairy realm expert. I reckon that he will soon reach the later stage of the fairy realm. Shock appeared on Yuan Yingying's face. A late-stage fairy realm expert wants to trouble us? She couldn't understand how she had ever provoked a late-stage fairy realm expert. Could it be that she had accidentally offended someone during the Blue Mountain meet? Why don't we just go out and take a look? Since he called out to us, wouldn't it be disrespectful for us to refuse to go out? Su Yu's gaze became ice-cold. It would be better for those people who wanted to harm them to come out, as they could eliminate all of their worries before leaving. The Yuan family members stopped what they were doing and went out of the manor. However, when they reached it, they were all startled. A youth, who wore white clothes and had an extraordinary bearing, was standing outside the gate. However, the person standing next to him was unexpectedly Yuan Wanbi. Wanbi, what the hell are you doing? Why did you bring people to cause trouble in the Yuan family? Defeating armies furrowed his brows as he spoke. Yuan Wanbi smiled. Cabinet Elder, defeating armies. I just have some personal grudges, and I want to discuss them with my sister and Su Yuxian. I didn't cause any trouble. The Yuan family head swept his gaze over his daughter, then looked at the youth, who had an extraordinary bearing, and asked, "May I ask who you are?" He was only in his early 20s, yet he had already reached the level 7 fairy realm. Just such a talent alone was enough to shock the Yuan family head. I'm Shangguan Yunk. I think that I will soon have to call you father-in-law, Shangguan Yunk said. Defeating armies' eyes flickered, and he asked in surprise, Shangguan Yunk, are you from the White Cloud Lake's Shangguan family? Wait, why are you calling me father-in-law? The Yuan family members were also shocked, as the Shangguan family ruled over the 9 mountain ranges, 7 mountains, 6 caves, and 5 villas. Shangguan Yunk wore a faint smile. Didn't the Yuan family head announce my engagement with Wanbi to the public? The Yuan family members exclaimed in surprise when they heard him. What? The engagement between the Shangguan family and our Yuan family? Impossible. How could our small Yuan family be connected to the Shangguan family? The crowd was filled with astonishment, ecstasy, and excitement, one after another. What kind of glory would it be to be connected by marriage with such a great faction? Not to mention the Blue Mountain Range, there weren't many factions in the whole 18 blessed and heavenly lands that dared to offend them. This was even more exciting than the second miss becoming the soul-seizing palace's outer sanctum disciple. Yuan Wanbi's vanity was greatly satisfied, as all of her family members' gazes were once again focused on her. In comparison, her younger sister's identity as the soul-seizing palace's outer sanctum disciple was just too pitiful. Defeating armies laughed heartily. Wanbi, I knew that you had great fortune in your life, so I will congratulate you here. The other family members also did the same, and their gazes were filled with envy and reverence. What kind of glory was it to be the Shangguan family's young master's wife? Even the Yuan family's master's status wasn't as great as hers. The Yuan family would soon have an influential person whose name would shake the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. However, before they could rejoice, Shangguan Yunk said, Thank you all for your kindness, but I still want to settle a debt. Wanbi was bullied by Yuan Yingying and Su Yuxian in the family, and this matter concerns our Shangguan family's reputation. I can't just ignore it. Shangguan Yunk's expression became ice-cold as he said, Now, both of you should come out and discuss this matter. The crowd immediately cooled down. Shangguan Yunk's attitude was quite aggressive and resolute. However, if he handed over Yuan Yingying, he would surely lose her heart. Even if he became successful in the future, he wouldn't be able to take care of the Yuan family. However, if he refused, he would offend Yuan Wanbi, and the Shangguan family's young master's wife could easily manipulate the Yuan family and cause great trouble for them. In fact, if she hardened her heart, she might even destroy the Yuan family. Thus, it was still better for them to obey Yuan Wanbi. Thus, most of the people remained silent. Yuan Yingying clenched her fists and looked at her elder sister. Does she hate me so much? Yuan Yingying felt like she had never done anything to harm her elder sister. While the entire Yuan family was still silent, a tall figure stepped forward. It was the Yuan family's master. Young Master Shangguan, this is the Yuan family, not the Shangguan family. If you think that you can interfere in our family's affairs just because of an engagement, then you can forget about this engagement. If the bride went back on her word, then the engagement would be invalid. Yuan Wanbi's expression changed. Father, how can you do this? This is my life's most important matter, so how can you? Before she could finish speaking, The Yuan family's master interrupted her with a shout, "Shut up!" His shout made Yuan Wanbi shrink back. Ever since she was young, she had rarely seen her father so angry. "Wanbi, my good daughter, you colluded with an outsider to bully your younger sister. You're really a good daughter taught by me." The Yuan family's master's face was filled with disappointment. He stood in front of Yuan Yingying and said, "Come, tell me what your younger sister owes you. What did she make you hate her so much that you even colluded with an outsider to bully her? Tell me." Yuan Wanbi was afraid of her father, and she tried to think of why she had done such a thing. However, at this moment, she couldn't find any reason to do so. Yuan Yingying had never harmed her, and she even treated her like her own elder sister. As for Yuan Wanbi, she loathed her younger sister. When she saw her younger sister's success, she became jealous of her, and when her younger sister surpassed her, she became filled with hatred. So, how could she say such words? "What? You can't say it?" The Yuan family's master asked. "Is it because you are too vain and jealous? Is it because you can't accept that your younger sister is more outstanding than you? You are jealous. It's the Yuan family's uncles and elders who have treated you well for so long that they made you forget yourself." The Yuan family's master said in a stern voice, "I will give you 3 breaths' time. Either you admit your mistake and come back, or you will never come back to the Yuan family." Yuan Wanbi's whole body shuddered when she heard him. This wasn't what she wanted to see. She just wanted to vent her anger and reclaim her position in the Yuan family. She hadn't expected that her father would be so decisive as to drive her out of the Yuan family. 1. The Yuan family's master said. 2. Yuan Wanbi's eyes were filled with struggle. What should she do? Should she leave the Yuan family and marry into the Shangguan family? But, if she wasn't a member of the Yuan family, she wouldn't have the right to marry into the Shangguan family. The Yuan family's master was about to count to the end. However, at this moment, a figure stepped in front of her father and said, "Father, let me settle this matter by myself. This is our grudge, so don't make things difficult for my elder sister." The Yuan family's master remained silent for a moment before he closed his eyes and said, "I will give you the time it would take to brew half a cup of tea." Yuan Wanbi glanced at Yuan Yingying and sighed inwardly. In the end, Yuan Yingying was still kind-hearted, and she couldn't bear to see her elder sister driven out of the family. But, in Yuan Wanbi's eyes, her kindness was nothing more than charity. "I don't need your hypocrisy." Yuan Wanbi stared at Yuan Yingying. Shangguan Yunk looked at Yuan Yingying and asked, "Is it you? Wanbi, how do you want to treat her?" "As long as you say it, I will do it. Anyone who dares to obstruct me will be the Shangguan family's enemy." Chapter 761. Yuan Yingying's expression was calm as she asked, "Sister, what do you want to do with me?" Yuan Wanbi replied coldly, "Of course, I want to." Although she hated her sister to the core, she was still at a loss at the end. "What do I want to do with her? Kill her?" She had thought about it, but she couldn't bring herself to say it when her sister was standing in front of her. But, if she didn't get rid of her sister, how could she recover her status? "Wanbi, tell me what you want. As long as I'm here, I will surely fulfill your wish." Shangguan Yunk tried his best to protect her. Yuan Wanbi was quite annoyed, and as she looked at the Yuan family members, she regretted her impulsive actions. Yuan Wanbi hesitated for a moment before she clenched her teeth and said, "Just make her apologize." "Apologize?" The Yuan family's master opened his eyes slightly, and the disappointment on his face disappeared. Many of the Yuan family members were startled by this. Their eldest miss had rushed back with a murderous aura, only to apologize? Yuan Yingying asked, "Sister, what do you want me to apologize for?" Yuan Wanbi was stumped by this question, and she wondered, "Why should I apologize? What did my sister do to me? Do I need to apologize to her just because I'm more outstanding than her?" Yuan Wanbi's mind was in a mess. "Wanbi, tell me, what do you want her to apologize for?" Shangguan Yunk asked. Yuan Wanbi shook her head, her interest waning. Forget it, she doesn't have anything to apologize for. Thank you for your help, but I'm fine now. What about him? Shangguan Yunk looked at Suyu. As Yuan Wanbi looked at him, she couldn't bring herself to hate him anymore. Forget it, it's fine. I appreciate your kindness, so let's just leave it at that. Yuan Wanbi had come here angrily, but she had left in a depressed mood. An unavoidable conflict had ended because of the eldest Mrs.'s decision to give up. Aren't you afraid that your sister will always surpass you? Shangguan Yunk asked. Yuan Wanbi shook her head and took out a jade bottle, which contained a 4-leaf fairy expansion pill. I can rely on my own power to advance to the fairy realm and defeat her fair and square. Clap. At this moment, Shangguan Yunk suddenly laughed and applauded. Haha. Interesting. The ending was unexpected. Eh? The Yuan family members were startled. Yuan Wanbi was startled by this. Young Master Shangguan, what kind of ending did you just say? It's obviously your fate, Shangguan Yunk said calmly. Did you really think that I would come here to take revenge for you? Thud, Yuan Wanbi panicked and she retreated subconsciously. She stared at Shangguan Yunk without blinking. You? What are you trying to say? Shangguan Qing'er looked at her and said calmly, I am here to test your character. In the past 10 days, I have been in the city trying to find out about your character, your deeds, your reputation, as well as some gossip. I already know everything that I should know. Rub, Yuan Wanbi took several steps back and covered her mouth. She couldn't believe what she had just witnessed. Are you testing me? She really wanted to ask him what he knew. Did he know about the underground relationship between her and Zhao Yin? I know about your rendezvous with Zhao Yin, and I saw it with my own eyes when you tried to seduce Su Yuxian, only to be rejected. Do I still need to continue? Shangguan Yunk asked. What? The Yuan family's master opened his eyes abruptly, his anger rising. Bastard! You actually had a secret rendezvous with Zhao Yin? At that time, he was your sister's fiancé. You shameless, evil creature. He was furious. When Zhao Yin had proposed to marry her, she had rejected him because she knew that she would have to suffer if she married into his family. In the end, her younger sister had helped her. Yet, she had unexpectedly had a secret rendezvous with Zhao Yin. She wanted both of their affections, yet her younger sister had taken care of all the hardships. Moreover, she had even seduced Su Yuxian. Her daughter had actually seduced an old man. The Yuan family's master was so infuriated that he almost fainted. You unfilial daughter! The Yuan family's master flew into a rage and slapped her. I will kill you! Upon witnessing this, the Yuan family's members didn't dare to stay here any longer. The family's master didn't lose his temper, but once he did, he would surely fly into a thunderous rage. But how could they stop him in time? Yuan Wanbi's cultivation was much weaker than her father's, so she couldn't even dodge the slap. She subconsciously raised her arms in front of her, her heart filled with fear and remorse. What kind of foolish thing did I do? Slap. When the slap descended, she didn't feel the pain she had expected. Instead, a familiar figure flew past her. Ying. The Yuan family's master was the first to react, but it was too late for him to retract his power. He slapped Yuan Ying's face. At such a crucial moment, Yuan Ying pounced forward and blocked the slap. As Yuan Ying was slapped and sent flying, blood seeped out of the corners of her mouth. The Yuan family's master quickly calmed down from his rage and rushed over to support Yuan Ying. As he looked at her flushed face and the bloodstain at the corners of her mouth, he blamed himself and asked, Why were you so foolish? Even though her elder sister had come to cause trouble for her, she had still endured it for her elder sister like she had in the past. Yuan Ying chuckled, but she still felt a burning pain on her face. She couldn't help but exclaim, I'm your younger sister, and I couldn't just watch as my elder sister was beaten. Her simple and natural reply touched the Yuan family's members. She was too pure and innocent, as even though her elder sister had treated her in such a manner, she still hadn't changed. As they looked at the injured Yuan Yingying, many of the older generation's members couldn't help but sigh. As they recalled what they had done in the past, they couldn't help but feel guilty and ashamed. Yuan Wanbi stared blankly at her younger sister's figure, which had been sent flying. She was still thinking about me even in such a situation? She felt as if a soft spot in her heart had been touched, and she couldn't help but feel bitter. All of her resentment disappeared in an instant. Yuan Yingying was just a younger sister who had treated her wholeheartedly. She looked at her father, then at her clansmen, then at Shangguan Yunk, who had investigated her thoroughly. She couldn't bring herself to face anyone anymore. Yuan Wanbi covered her mouth and tapped the ground with her foot before she soared into the sky and flew away. "Young miss, wait for me." Her personal maid, Xiao Tao, quickly chased after her. The Yuan family's members were all concerned about Yuan Yingying, so they didn't really care about her departure. Only 2 guards chased after her to protect her. Yuan Yingying had fled in hopes of finding a place where no one would recognize her, and spend the rest of her life in peace. She wanted to never appear in front of the Yuan family's members again. But, even though the world was vast, where could she find a place where she could stay? "Young miss, wait for me." Xiao Tao chased after her. Yuan Wanbi stopped, and when she landed on the ground, she discovered that she was already outside the city. "Xiao Tao, you should go back. The Yuan family doesn't need to worry about food and clothing, so you don't need to follow me anymore." "I don't plan to go back to the Yuan family," Yuan Wanbi said. Xiao Tao sighed. "The eldest young miss has always treated me well, so wherever you go, I will follow you." "But, young miss, are you really going to leave like this? How far can you go now that you're penniless?" Yuan Wanbi smiled bitterly. "The world is vast, so how could there not be a place for me to go? I'm a primary alchemist, and I can refine 3rd-grade spirit pills. Moreover, I'm well versed in all of the Yuan family's elixir recipes, so I can easily sell some of them." Xiao Tao asked, "Young miss, have you really memorized all of the elixir recipes? The Yuan family has so many elixir recipes, so how can you memorize them all?" Yuan Wanbi shook her head and said, "I obviously can't memorize all of them, as all of the Yuan family's important elixirs are in my head." After she came back to her senses, Yuan Wanbi looked at Xiao Tao with a gentle gaze and said, "Xiao Tao, I only have you left. You've been by my side since I was young, and you're like a sister to me. Since you want to follow me, then follow me to roam the world. Even though I can't give you riches and glory, I can at least give you a peaceful life." Xiao Tao sighed. "Xiao Tao will follow you, young miss. But, I have something that I want to tell you, but I don't know whether you will listen to me or not." "What do you want to say?" Yuan Wanbi was surprised by this, and she assumed that Xiao Tao wanted to persuade her to go back. Xiao Tao walked closer to Yuan Wanbi and spoke in a low voice. Suddenly, Yuan Wanbi felt a sharp pain in her waist, and her whole body became powerless. Her vital energy stagnated, and her body slumped to the ground. As she slumped to the ground, she looked at Xiao Tao, who was standing behind her, and said, "What I want to say is that I thank you for treating me like a sister. But, it's a pity that you were blind and misjudged me." At this moment, Xiao Tao didn't look like a loyal maid anymore, and she wore a mocking smile on her face as she forcefully took the spatial ring from Yuan Wanbi's finger. After she opened it and scanned its contents, delight appeared in her eyes. "Hee, as expected, all of the elixir recipes are here. Young miss, you really didn't disappoint me." Yuan Wanbi couldn't move, and even speaking was strenuous for her. "Xiao Tao, who are you?" Xiao Tao looked at the elixir recipes with a greedy look in her eyes. "Me? I'm a spy that Zhao Yinghao sent to the Yuan family. My goal is to get the Yuan family's precious elixir books, especially the last elixir recipe. It's an ancient elixir recipe, the heart-refining mortal dust liquid. The Elixir Production Alliance has always wanted it, but they couldn't get it." "What?" You are a member of the Elixir Production Alliance? Yuan Wanbi didn't believe that her maid, who had grown up with her, could be a spy. However, this was the truth. Yuan Wanbi felt a sense of crisis, and she quickly changed her mind. Xiao Tao, the Elixir Production Alliance has already been destroyed, so you don't need to work for them anymore. Don't take the elixir recipes with you, as I can compensate you with crystals. After all, you don't know how to refine elixirs, so elixir recipes are useless to you. Xiao Tao replied, All right, I don't need to carry out the mission that the Elixir Production Alliance gave me, but I still have another mission that I haven't completed. You still have another mission? Could it be that you are a spy for two factions? Yuan Wanbi was quite intelligent. Xiao Tao chuckled and said, That's right. I have another identity, as I'm a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. Yuan Wanbi's pupils contracted when she heard this. The Severed Fairy Cliff? Fear appeared on Yuan Wanbi's face when she heard this name. The Severed Fairy Cliff was a terrifying name in the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands, the Central Prefecture, and even the entire Jiuzhou. It had a great influence, and no one knew where its headquarters were located. No one knew who its leader was, and no one knew how many members it had. The only thing that was known was that it could be found in every corner of the Jiuzhou world. They only operated in the shadows, acting as assassins, mercenaries, thieves, underground money houses, underground casinos, and so on. All kinds of shady businesses were included in the list. Moreover, every single one of their jobs was done exquisitely. Chapter 762. As for the mercenaries, they could hire later-stage fairies. In fact, some of the more influential branches could even hire almighty divine masters. Thieves and thieves. Almost all of the world's famous thieves and thieves were inextricably linked to the Severed Fairy Cliff. As for the underground money houses and casinos, they could be found all over the continent. It could be said that the Severed Fairy Cliff was an extremely powerful faction that would do anything for wealth. Its tentacles covered the entire Jiuzhou world. Some people said that the Severed Fairy Cliff's power wasn't any weaker than any of the kings of the Jiuzhou world. It was the 10th king of the Jiuzhou world, the King of Darkness. Yuan Wanbi had never expected that she would encounter the legendary Severed Fairy Cliff. They had long since set their eyes on the Yuan family's ancient elixir recipe. Since you know that I come from the Severed Fairy Cliff, you should know what your fate will be. It would have been fine if you looked ordinary, but you're so beautiful that I can't help but feel pity for you. I believe that many people would be willing to pay a high price to buy you, right? Xiao Tao laughed. Yuan Wanbi was so scared that her whole body turned cold. Indeed, the Severed Fairy Cliff had another shady business: human trafficking. Since she was so beautiful, she must be a rare commodity. Yuan Wanbi's face turned pale as she thought of this. If she hadn't left home so hastily, and if she hadn't trusted Xiao Tao so easily, she wouldn't have ended up like this. Eldest miss, please don't cry. You can't blame anyone else for this. You didn't trust your sister, who you respect, but you trusted me, an outsider. Who can you blame for this? Xiao Tao lifted her chin in a mocking manner, as if she was sizing up an animal. Yuan Wanbi bit her lips and smiled bitterly. Is this retribution? It came so quickly. She hated Yuan Yingying, but had Yuan Yingying ever hurt her? Had she ever hated her? Not at all. As for Yuan Wanbi, she had just had her limelight stolen, so she hated her to the core. She had even thought of killing her in the future. Young ladies from prestigious families like you get too much love, so you always trample on other people's hearts. Even I feel sorry for your sister. After Xiao Tao finished her inspection, she found a rope and tied Yuan Wanbi up. Then, she carried her on her shoulder as if she was carrying a prey. His face was filled with pride. I've finally completed the mission. Not only did I obtain the pill recipe, but I also obtained a great beauty. As she spoke, Xiao Tao revealed a faint smile. By the way, do you remember that demon ape? Haven't you ever wondered why the heavenly fragrance pills you threw out didn't have any effect, and why the devil ape still found you and almost captured you? Upon hearing this, Yuan Wanbi felt as if she had been struck by lightning. You are controlling the demonic ape? The goal of the severed fairy cliff was endless wealth. That demonic ape had blocked the road to rob them, specifically stealing their wealth and women. Could it be that the severed fairy cliff was also behind this? Xiao Tao laughed. Miss is indeed smart. Yes, smart women can be sold for a higher price. That's right, the devil ape is the devil pet of my severed fairy cliff. The wealth and women it plunders will be taken away by our severed fairy cliff at regular intervals to be sold. The women it abducts, the beautiful ones, will be sold far away by us. Only the ones we can't sell will be left for it. At that time, I wanted to capture both the first Miss and the second Mississippi. Unfortunately, a mysterious divine master ruined my plans. But now, the first Miss is still in my hands, along with your clan's ancient pill formula. My mission is complete. Xiao Tao patted Yuan Wanbi's butt. Don't worry, I will find a good buyer for you since I've served you for so many years. Yuan Wanbi felt despair in her heart. As she looked at the Blue Mountain Range city, which was getting further and further away, she felt completely disheartened. She had always thought that she was smart and fought for power, but what had she gotten in the end? She had become a female slave. If she could start over again, she would definitely cherish the people around her. However, it was too late for her to regret it. Fine, this is my fate. This is my retribution. Yuan Wanbi gave up on resisting and closed her eyes. However, at this moment, a faint voice suddenly came from the sky. Oh? That demonic ape is really being controlled by someone. You hit it well. Interesting. Who is it? Xiao Tao's expression changed drastically, and she jumped nimbly into the bushes like a deer. However, before she could even squat down, both she and Yuan Wanbi were engulfed by a spatial power. Oh no! It's spatial power. Xiao Tao's expression changed drastically. She wanted to leave Yuan Wanbi behind and escape, but she couldn't succeed. When the surroundings calmed down, Xiao Tao threw out a dagger without even looking at her surroundings. Ding! A soft sound echoed out, and the dagger emitted a vibrating sound. It was as if it had been deflected by something. When she opened her eyes, she saw that they were by a lake. There was an old man with a sage-like demeanor. He had one hand behind his back, while the other flicked the dagger away. Su Yuxian? It's you? Who are you? Xiao Tao was startled. This spatial magical ability was extraordinary, and it wasn't something that an ordinary person could use. This old man wasn't an ordinary person. Yuan Wanbi was startled. Su Yu, whom she had hated in the past, was now quite amiable to her. Xiao Tao, it seems like it's too early for you to be happy. Yuan Wanbi chuckled bitterly. She knew better than her younger sister how terrifying Su Yu's power was. Shut up! Xiao Tao jabbed Yuan Wanbi with her elbow, causing her to groan and look of pain to appear on her face. She then looked at Su Yu and said, I don't care who you are, as there are no grudges between us. Moreover, this woman has tried to kill you many times, so you don't need to save her. Su Yu nodded. You are right. I really don't have any reason to save her. Yuan Wanbi bit her lips, but she didn't feel any hatred. After all, she had brought all of this upon herself, and she couldn't blame anyone. Don't worry about me. Just take good care of Yingying. Don't tell her about my situation. Just tell her that I ran away from home. Also, please apologize to her for me, Yuan Wanbi said bitterly. She didn't expect that Su Yu would let Xiao Tao go, but she also didn't expect him to save her. Xiao Tao revealed a faint smile. Many thanks. As she spoke, she carried Yuan Wanbi on her shoulder and retreated slowly. However, Su Yu said, this matter isn't related to me, but to the second miss. If the eldest miss wants to apologize, you should apologize to her. Xiao Tao's expression became gloomy. Do you want to meddle in other people's business? I'm a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff, and if you kill me, the consequences will be grave. Suyu revealed a faint smile. Even the Central Prefecture's king wouldn't listen to you, let alone a trifling bandit and human trafficker. As he spoke, a white light flickered in Suyu's eyes, and a ball of soul flame flew over. Xiao Tao's cultivation was just at the half-fairy realm, so she didn't even manage to let out a miserable shriek before her soul turned into nothingness. Yuan Wanbi, who was carried on his shoulder, staggered and was about to fall, but Suyu grabbed her shoulder. With a flick of his finger, Suyu untied the ropes binding her body, then examined Xiao Tao. He then threw a small fireball at her and burned her body to ashes, leaving behind only her spatial ring and a purple badge. As for the spatial ring, Suyu scanned it and found that there were only a few things in it. After all, she had been hiding beside the eldest miss for a long time, so it wasn't convenient for her to carry any special items with her. However, Suyu still found a pitch-black needle in the spatial ring, which was exactly the same as the one he had found in the demonic ape's cave. At that time, he had felt that the demonic ape was being controlled by someone, and that the black needle's poison was used to control souls. He really didn't expect that it was a mysterious organization from the Severed Fairy Cliff. After he crushed the spatial ring, Suyu looked at the purple badge. Suyu remembered that Xia Jingyu had warned him to pay attention to purple objects, as they could change their trajectory and give him a chance to survive. Could the purple badge in front of him be one of them? Suyu held the badge in his hand and flipped it over. Apart from the fact that it was made of special materials, there were only the words Severed Fairy Cliff on it. Thank you. Yuan Wanbi stood up and bowed to Suyu with a complicated look on her face. Suyu ignored him and tried to find the token's function. This is the Severed Fairy Cliff's badge, Yuan Wanbi said. It's rumored that different colors represent different grades. There are 7 grades: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Purple is the lowest grade, and Xiao Tao's status in the Severed Fairy Cliff is the lowest. Identity token? Suyu turned around and calmly asked, why doesn't it have a name? Yuan Wanbi couldn't help but feel happy when Suyu paid attention to her. It's because she still hasn't passed the test. The purple token will be randomly distributed to whoever obtains it. The person who obtains the purple token will be able to officially become a purple member of the Severed Fairy Cliff by completing a task. Furthermore, they will be given a random name. Suyu was slightly surprised. So casual? Aren't you afraid that someone might take advantage of the situation and barge in? However, Yuan Wanbi shook her head and said, they won't be worried, because even if they become members, they will never know who the leader is. Suyu asked, then what's the point of getting the identity badge? It's useless anyway. It's useful, and it has a great effect, Yuan Wanbi said. Once you become a true member of the Severed Fairy Cliff, a task will appear on the badge every month. If you can complete it, you will get bonus points and a corresponding reward. She then added, for example, this month's task is to kill a person, and the reward is a 4th-grade spirit pill, which is worth 3 points. After you complete the task, you will get 3 points and a 4th-grade spirit pill. After the task is completed, the spirit pill will be placed in a certain place, and you will be notified by the badge to go there and get it. Is it really that amazing? Suyu was quite surprised. This meant that the Severed Fairy Cliff had a great influence, and it was able to distribute rewards to its members, which were spread all over Jiuzhou at any time. After all, there was probably more than one member of the Severed Fairy Cliff in the Blue Mountain City. So, what are the 3 points for? Suyu asked. Yuan Wanbi replied, it's for accumulating points. One needs 100 points to advance from the purple token to the blue token, 1,000 points to advance from the blue token to the cyan token, and so on. The latter token is 10 times more than the former, and the higher the token, the higher the task will be. Chapter 763. Hearing this, Suyu completely understood. This was a huge quest system. The higher-ups of the severed immortal cliff issued a mission, and the members of the severed immortal cliff only needed to execute it. Therefore, even if someone were to infiltrate the inner circle of the severed fairy cliff, they would not be able to see anyone from the severed fairy cliff. Just who was behind such a tight and massive organization? Senior, there's nothing wrong with killing Xiaotao. She's not a true member of the severed fairy cliff. However, if you meet her again in the future, I hope that Senior will be careful. The power of the severed fairy cliff is too great. Even the 9 prefectures' emperor had no choice but to compromise, as he couldn't do anything to them. Su Yu nodded and put away the purple badge. He wondered, is this the instruction that Xia Jingyu gave me? Purple, powerful. The severed fairy cliff seemed to be somewhat similar. Let's go. Su Yu turned around. Yuan Wanbi hesitated for a moment before she bit her lip and followed them. Yuan Yingying was waiting anxiously outside the courtyard. The Yuan family head was also waiting anxiously. The 2 guards who had followed her were found dead in the alley, and it was only after they had reported that Yuan Wanbi had gone missing that they realized that this matter was quite urgent. Yuan Yingying's eyes lit up when she saw the 2 of them returning. She was so excited that she forgot about the gap between her and her elder sister. She threw herself into Yuan Yingying's arms and exclaimed, "Elder sister, you're fine. Father and I were afraid that something would happen to my sister." Yuan Wanbi's body stiffened. She had already experienced Xiao Tao's betrayal, and she had also experienced heartless and cold darkness. Now, she finally understood how simple Yuan Yingying's emotions were. His heart warmed up and he hugged her tightly. His heart was filled with guilt, and he was too ashamed to show his face. "I'm sorry, little sister. Big sister treated you like that in the past. I really," as Yuan Wanbi recalled all of her ridiculous and foolish actions, her cheeks became hot, and she was too embarrassed to say anything. When Yuan Yingying sensed the change in her sister, she felt somewhat overwhelmed. This was the first time her sister had hugged her. Enjoying her sister's embrace, the regret in her heart disappeared. "You don't need to say anything. I understand. From now on, let's support each other and become good sisters," Yuan Yingying said as she looked at her older sister. As Yuan Wanbi stared at his pure and innocent eyes, all sorts of feelings welled up in her heart. Was I bewitched in the past? Why would he do that to her? When she thought of this, she felt both ashamed and moved, and 2 streams of tears rolled down her cheek. Yuan Yingying finally received her elder sister's affection, and tears streamed down her cheeks like rain. A pair of sisters embraced each other. After a long time, the 2 of them finally separated. Yuan Wanbi's face was filled with shame, and she bowed to the surrounding Yuan family members. "I'm sorry for making everyone worry. Wanbi, I apologize to everyone." Yuan family head's eyes were filled with gentleness. "It's good that you're back. From now on, we can live in harmony." She was forgiven by her father. As Yuan Wanbi surveyed the surroundings, her gaze fell upon Shangguan Yung. Her previous desire to curry favor with the nobles and aristocrats had dimmed significantly. Young Master Shangguan Wanbi is young and ignorant, and she has committed many grave mistakes. I don't have the face to become Shangguan's daughter-in-law. Let's do as my father said and cancel our engagement. I'm sorry for causing trouble for young Master Shangguan. She had come to terms with it, and she felt relaxed, as if she had been reborn. However, she was startled when Shangguan Yung said with a faint smile, "Who said that father-in-law cancelled the engagement?" Shangguan Yung said with a smile, "It's good to know your mistakes and correct them. I expected that you would use me to get rid of your younger sister, but you gave up in the end, which shows that you still have a good heart. Now that you've put down your grudges and reunited with your younger sister, your state of mind should be at peace, right?" He then added, "I, Shangguan Yung, am not someone who likes to look into the past. What happened in the past isn't important anymore, and what's important now is that you've become the Shangguan family's future young master. The betrothal gifts have already been sent to the Yuan family, and this engagement has been decided. Yuan Wanbi was startled by this sudden pleasant surprise. She had schemed so hard to obtain this engagement, but she had just decided to give it up. However, her heart calmed down quite a bit, and her pretty face became slightly flushed. She didn't have too many thoughts, as she had in the past. Everything is a happy ending. The Yuan family's master was quite carefree, as he had finally gotten rid of the worries that had plagued him for decades. He then said, "Haha, today is the day of the 5 happy events. Let's drink to our heart's content." Shangguan Yunk was quite interested in this, and he laughed heartily. "What are the 5 happy events?" The Yuan family's master clapped his hands and said with a smile, "The Yuan family isn't suppressed anymore, and it's a happy event for us to control the Blue Mountain Range. It's a happy event for Yuan Yingying to become the Soul Seizing Palace's female disciple. It's a happy event for Yuan Wanbi to get married to the Shangguan family. It's a happy event for an intermediate alchemist to appear in the Yuan family. It's a happy event for the 2 sisters to reconcile." The 5 happy events were all quite delightful. At this moment, Su Yu chuckled and said, "Yuan family's master, I have something to tell you, and it might be the 6th happy event." It wasn't just the Yuan family's master, as even Shangguan Yunk was looking at Su Yu. He was sizing him up curiously, as his intuition told him that this old man, who had an otherworldly air, seemed to possess extraordinary abilities. The 6th happy event is that the new intermediate alchemist that the Yuan family's master is looking for is none other than your youngest daughter, Yuan Yingying. His words gave rise to a great commotion. Yuan Yingying is the intermediate alchemist who made the grade 4 fairy expansion pill? How is that possible? How old is she? Even the Yuan family's master found this matter incredulous. Su Yu didn't speak, but took out a jade bottle, which also contained a grade 4 fairy expansion pill. He then said, "She made 3 pills in total, and the first one was accidentally detonated by the furnace and flew away. As for the remaining 2, we can each have one." Shock appeared on the Yuan family's master's face as he looked at Yuan Yingying and asked, "Yingying, tell me, are you an intermediate alchemist? When did you learn how to make elixirs?" Yuan Wanbi covered her mouth in shock as she replied, "Father, I know that Yingying has been making elixirs for the past 2 years. But making a grade 4 spirit pill is beyond my imagination." The whole Yuan family was in an uproar. "Oh my God! The second miss isn't just talented in the martial path. She even has an even more terrifying talent in alchemy." The crowd gathered around Yuan Yingying and asked her all sorts of questions, all of them shocked. It was the first time that such a young intermediate alchemist had appeared in the Blue Mountain Range. Yuan Yingying was helpless, so she could only pull Su Yu out of the crowd and say, "It's all thanks to Uncle Su's help." "Well, where is Uncle Su? Where is he?" The crowd looked around, but they couldn't find Su Yu. It was as if he had disappeared into the crowd. Yuan Wanbi seemed to have lost something as she muttered, "He left." "No. Don't leave. Yingying can't live without you." Yuan Yingying's eyes were brimming with tears as she parted the crowd and rushed out of the Yuan family's residence. In a quiet street, a white-haired old man, who had an air of an immortal, clasped his hands behind his back and disappeared into the fog. "Brother, are you going to leave just like this?" A sudden voice transmitted from a rooftop on the street. When Su Yu raised his head and looked over, he saw a handsome young man, who was clad in luxurious white clothes, leaning against the roof. Su Yu replied calmly, "Brother? Shouldn't you call me Grandpa?" "Splutter!" The white-feathered youth laughed heartily and said, "Ha, lad, you aren't even as old as me, yet you still want to take advantage of my seniority?" Su Yu was surprised by this. "Do you know how old I am? Or, have you seen my portrait?" A cold glint flickered in his eyes. The white-feathered youth shook his head and landed on the ground. He was still laughing as he said, "That's not it. It's just that my Shangguan family's bloodline is somewhat unusual, and it's sensitive to one's lifespan. I can feel that you have lost a large amount of your lifespan, so you must have lost it for a short period of time. That's why you have aged overnight. Suyu felt slightly relieved upon hearing this. So what? You aren't just looking for me to chat with you, are you? Isn't it better for you to accompany your fiancé? Suyu asked. This person was obviously Shangguan Yong. Hehe, I obviously have a reason for looking for you. I've heard about the recent events in the Yuan family. The Almighty Divine Master, the Fairy Expansion Pill, the second miss, who turned from a mediocre person into a world-defying genius, and the Elixir Production Alliance's destruction. It's really hard to believe that you are just 19 years old, which is even younger than me. Yet, you possess unfathomable abilities, so I hope that you can follow me back to the Shangguan family. The Red Blood Palace? Suyu raised his brows. The Red Blood Palace was one of the two greatest factions in the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands. I also invited Yuan Yingying, who is an 18-year-old intermediate alchemist. TSK. The Red Blood Palace's elixir-making elders will probably fight over her. Suyu squinted his eyes as he was greatly tempted. His crisis was looming ever closer, and if he could hide in a powerful faction, cultivate patiently, and strengthen his cultivation, it would be for the best. The Red Blood Palace was the strongest faction in the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands, and it was guarded by all creation old monsters. Hence, joining it was exactly what Suyu wanted. Why did you invite us for no reason? There isn't such a good thing in the world, is there? Suyu asked. Shangguan Yong laughed heartily. Brother Su, you are overthinking this. Recommending talents to the Red Blood Palace is the responsibility of the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands great factions. Just like how the Blue Mountain Range sends its most outstanding geniuses to the Soul-Seizing Palace, our Shangguan family will also recommend its most outstanding geniuses to the Red Blood Palace. He then added, of course, if the recommended geniuses meet the Red Blood Palace's requirements and enter it successfully, then the faction that recommended them will get rewards from the Red Blood Palace. These rewards are for the extension of the region they govern. Although they are meaningless to wandering cultivators like you, they are important to our Shangguan family. So, you don't need to worry about us coveting anything from you. As a matter of fact, what could a wandering cultivator like Suyu possibly covet from a super faction like the Shangguan family? Suyu felt at ease because of this, as the Shangguan family could recommend one more person to the Red Blood Palace, which meant that they would be able to govern the 9 mountain ranges and other regions. Fine, I agree. When will we set off? Suyu asked. Shangguan Yong chuckled. We will obviously talk about it after we get drunk tonight. Just like that, Suyu returned to the Yuan family in embarrassment. Yuan Wanbi rolled her eyes at him, while Yuan Yingying grumbled at him. During the banquet, Shangguan Yong announced the Yuan family's 7th piece of good news, which was that he would recommend Yuan Yingying to join the Red Blood Palace. When they heard this shocking news, the whole Yuan family celebrated, and it was bustling until midnight. At daybreak, in the outskirts, the Yuan family's master and Yuan Wanbi saw Shangguan Yong off with Suyu and Yuan Yingying to the White Cloud Lake. When the Yuan family's master saw that Suyu was also being taken away, he couldn't help but ask in surprise, Wanbi, why did Yingying bring that old man along with her? Yuan Wanbi chuckled when she heard him. Father, you should be asking why that old man brought Yingying along with him. When Yuan Wanbi saw the Yuan family's master's bewildered look, she revealed the truth to him. Father, do you really think that my sister's great transformation, as well as the Elixir Production Alliance's destruction in a single night, were all caused by some random divine master? In fact, it was all caused by that old man, Su Yuxian. He's a peerless expert who hid his strength well. If it wasn't for him, Shangguan Yong wouldn't have brought Yingying along with him. When he heard this, the Yuan family's master's eyes widened in shock. What? Him? That low-key old man is the cause of all of this? In fact, the Yuan family's master had also felt that there was a mastermind behind all of the events that had occurred in the past month. He really didn't expect that it would be this old man, whom he had picked up from the street. Yuan Wanbi looked at Su Yu's departing back and chuckled. Thank you. Outside the city, a black-robed old man went into the forest. It was Elder Liao, who had been ordered to look for the heart-refining mortal dust liquids material seeds for Su Yu. In the Elixir Production Alliance's ruined Great Hall, Zhao Yin, Zhao Yinghao, and the red-nosed man had all been frozen by Su Yu's time power, and they had all been killed in a single move. At this moment, a beautiful purple figure was standing on the scene. She had a slender and curvaceous body, and her fluttering purple clothes couldn't conceal her alluring figure. She seemed to be around 18 years old, and she was quite pretty. However, her eyes were filled with hatred. She stretched out a finger and drew an arc in the air, while a wisp of time power gathered once again. Time power. It's really him, Su Yu, who killed Uncle Shwedi. The young girl raised her head and looked at the white cloud lake with a cold glint in her eyes. I found you. At this moment, the Yuan family's experts, who were guarding outside, heard the commotion inside, so they rushed inside and asked, Who is it? The room was quite quiet, and there wasn't anyone there. However, there was still a faint fragrance lingering in the air. After 5 days of traveling, Su Yu and the others finally reached the White Cloud Lake. In the past 5 days, Su Yu had managed to adjust his internal blood energy channels to their optimal state. Now, he just needed to find a place to try to advance into the fairy realm. Wow! What a big lake! No, it's a sea. Yuan Yingying exclaimed in surprise as she looked at the giant white lake below. She was quite shocked, as they were standing at a height of 100,000 feet, yet they still couldn't see the end of the lake. They could only see a silver lake, which was covered by white clouds. Shangguan Yunk stretched his body lazily and said, We still have a day's journey ahead of us. Let's go down, as there is a relay station for our Shangguan family here. We will need to change our mount. The mounts that they had ridden from the Blue Mountain Range had been exhausted from flying for 5 days, so their speed had obviously slowed down. They wanted to reach the Shangguan family's residence as soon as possible, so it was time for them to change their mounts. The giant eagle beneath his feet let out a sharp cry as it dived down. There was an island on the silvery white lake's surface. It wasn't big, and it only had a circumference of 100,000 feet. It was planted with many spiritual fruits, which caused the spiritual energy here to be quite dense. Everywhere on the island there were wooden stakes, transplanted trees, dug holes, and so on. These were all places for birds with different habits to rest. When Su Yu used his perception to scan the resting area, he was quite surprised. There were many powerful birds resting here, and the weakest of them was at the level 1 fairy realm. There were even some terrifying level 7 fairy realm birds here. These are all birds raised by our Shangguan family, and there are people guarding them here. They are used by our Shangguan family members to change mounts for long distances. There are more than 10 relay stations like this one in the White Cloud Lake, and this is the smallest one. It's also the one that we must pass if we want to reach the Blue Mountain Range. Su Yu couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. A level 7 fairy realm mount. As expected of the Shangguan family. After all, the strongest person in the whole Blue Mountain Range was just a level 6 fairy realm expert. The one guarding this place is an elder of our family, Uncle Lon. We need to wake up the mounts through him, Shangguan Yunk said as he jumped off the plane and shouted, Uncle Lon? Where is he? It's really strange. There were only birds with terrifying auras on the island, and Uncle Lon was nowhere to be seen. It was unknown whether it was because these birds had been trained, but they were all calmly staying in their nest. They didn't move at all, and it seemed like they were all asleep. The island was deathly silent. Why are they all sleeping? Yuan Yingying asked. She wasn't used to the island's deathly silence. Shangguan Yunk shrugged his shoulders and said, Isn't that obvious? These birds were all controlled by special talismans. As long as they were activated, they would fall into a deep sleep. Only when one of them was needed would the seal be opened and they would wake up from their deep sleep. Otherwise, who would be able to manage so many powerful birds that were alive and kicking? Moreover, these birds still have their wild natures, so they wouldn't dare to act rashly if there was only one or two of them. But if all of them released their seals, then they would surely revolt. Something like this has happened in history. The people who were watching the island died on the spot, and many of the experts who came to help were either injured or killed. There was even a divine master who was attacked by a group of vicious birds, and his body was torn apart, leaving only his soul to escape. Thus, the control over them is extremely strict. Is that so? Suyu squinted his eyes. This island gave him an ominous feeling. All of a sudden, a faint smell of blood entered his nose. Suyu was surprised by this, and when he looked at the source of the smell, he saw that it was an ordinary blue ferocious bird. It was lying calmly on the ground like the other birds, and it had fallen into a deep sleep since no one had summoned it. Suyu's eyes turned silver as he used his soul eyes to see through everything. His pupils contracted as he looked at it. Young Master Shangguan, what is this Uncle Lan's cultivation like? Suyu stealthily shielded Yuan Yingying behind him, while his gaze became grave. Shangguan Yunk was startled by this. He's quite strong, and he should be at least at the level 8 fairy realm. Otherwise, how could he subdue this group of birds? Level 8 fairy realm? Suyu's expression became gloomy, and he grabbed Yuan Yingying as he soared into the sky. His actions were so sudden that he didn't give anyone any time to react. At the same time, Suyu's grave voice transmitted to Shangguan Yunk's ears, "Run away quickly. These birds are all awake, and they are pretending to be asleep. Your Uncle Lan has already been eaten by them." Suyu's soul eyes could clearly see a person's head, which had been swallowed by a giant blue bird. The rest of the giant birds all had human limbs in their bodies. What terrified Suyu even more was that these birds' souls were quite active, and they weren't even in a deep sleep state. They were just pretending to be asleep, and they were waiting for people who didn't know what was going on to land on them. There were more than 100 birds on the island. Even a level 8 fairy realm expert had been dismembered, let alone them. Chapter 764. Shangguan Yunk's expression changed drastically, and he soared into the sky without hesitation. As he was a level 7 fairy, his movement technique was much faster than Suyu's, and he managed to overtake him in just 3 breaths' time. "Brother Su, I will carry you." It was at this moment that the birds that were sleeping in the nest suddenly opened their eyes. Their eyes were empty and lifeless, and only a brutal glint was left in them. The 2 mounts that Shangguan Yunk had brought with him had sharp senses, and as they sensed that something was amiss, they quickly flapped their wings and soared into the sky. However, before they could fly more than 100 meters away, they let out miserable screams. 9 level 3 fairy realm ferocious birds pounced at them and started biting them with their sharp beak. Their wings were torn apart and their heads were torn off. Their blood-soaked feathers fluttered down like snow. The smell of blood attracted even more ferocious birds, and in just 3 breaths' time, the 2 birds were torn to shreds and devoured by another group of ferocious birds. Are they killing each other? Shangguan Yunk's expression became grave when he saw this. That's not right. Even though it's difficult to get rid of these birds' wild nature, they shouldn't be this brutal. It seems like someone is controlling them. Suyu nodded, then grabbed Yuan Yingying and fled without any hesitation. It was fortunate that the 2 mounts had attracted the birds' attention, so they were able to put some distance between them. Otherwise, if they had been attacked by several hundred birds, they would have been the ones who would have been killed. Screech! All of a sudden, an ear-piercing screech echoed out. Yuan Yingying groaned, and blood trickled down from her ears. The 4 level 7 fairy realm ferocious birds had discovered them and were chasing after them. Their speed was much higher than ordinary birds, and they were even faster than Shangguan Yunk. Oh no. Shangguan Yunk's expression became gloomy. 4 birds were more than enough to deal with one of them, but how could they deal with 4 of them? Moreover, if they were delayed for even a moment, those low-grade birds would surely catch up to them, and they would end up just like the 2 birds. Darn it! Who did this? Shangguan Yunk clenched his teeth and tore his clothes. His white feather-luxurious robe was torn to shreds, revealing his smooth back. Strangely, as the muscles on his back wriggled, 2 fleshy bones appeared, which seemed like the skeleton of a bird's wings. At the same time, many feathers made of vital energy appeared on his wings. In the blink of an eye, a pair of snow-white wings appeared on his back. Brother Su, come with me. Shangguan Yunk grabbed Su Yu and Yuan Yingying at the same time, while he flapped his wings, which gave rise to a shocking current. The 3 of them tore through the void and disappeared. When they reappeared, they were already millions of miles away. Even an early-stage divine master wouldn't be able to catch up to them, let alone the 4 level 7 fairy ferocious birds. Yuan Yingying's gaze flickered as she stared at the wings on Shangguan Yunk's back. She took a deep breath and asked, "The legendary blue water 9 heaven wings? A spirit artifact that could fuse with human flesh and blood. Just the crystal stones alone would require 100,000 crystal stones. 1 breath of time was equivalent to 50,000 miles of mountains and rivers. Furthermore, it's a one-time consumable, and only a superpower like the Shangguan clan can afford it. 100,000 crystal stones was equivalent to the Yuan family's income in a month." Su Yu's expression was still calm. After all, if a young master like Shangguan Yunk didn't even have such a life-saving technique, then Su Yu would find it strange. "Thank you for saving my life, brother Shangguan." Su Yu cupped his fists at him and thanked him. Although it wasn't like he didn't have a way to escape, Shangguan Yunk had protected them in such a dangerous situation. Hence, Su Yu changed the way he addressed him from young Master Shangguan to Brother Shangguan. Shangguan Yunk's face was slightly pale, while the shark's fin on his back had decayed and turned into black smoke. It could only be used once, and it consumed a great deal of spiritual vital energy. "Brother Su, you are being too serious. I should be the one thanking you, as if you hadn't warned me, I would have been killed." Shangguan Yunk cupped his fists at him as he spoke. If Su Yu hadn't warned him, he wouldn't have been able to use the blue water 9 heaven wings in time. Su Yu's gaze became grave as he asked, "Brother Shangguan, those birds seemed quite strange." Shangguan Yunya looked at Su Yu curiously, then asked, "Brother Su, how did you know that my family's elder was killed by those ferocious birds?" Su Yu replied, "It's just some lowly cultivation technique. But, when I observed those ferocious birds, they didn't have any spiritual qualities, and they were extremely ferocious. It was as if their minds were being controlled by someone." Since Su Yu didn't want to divulge his secret, Shangguan Yunk didn't want to probe further. However, he became more curious about Su Yu, as a cultivation technique that could see through the ferocious beasts' stomachs was quite extraordinary. "Brother Su, you are right," Shangguan Yunk said solemnly. Shangguan Yunk said gravely, "They are indeed being controlled by someone, and if I'm not mistaken, it should be done by a powerful beast tamer." Beast tamer? Su Yu had seen such a person in the Blue Mountain Range who could control demonic beasts. But he was able to control so many demonic beasts, and there were even 4 level 7 fairies among them. It was fortunate that we managed to escape in time. Otherwise, if we had to face a beast tamer, we would have been in a terrible situation. Everyone in Jiuzhou knew how terrifying beast tamers were, and no one would want to face a beast tamer who could control a large number of demonic beasts. Su Yu said, "We aren't safe now, so we should leave immediately." After the time it would take to brew half a cup of tea, a purple-clothed young man was standing on the head of a level 7 ferocious bird, while he looked coldly in the direction in which Su Yu had left. "Hateful! He ruined my plan. I could have killed Shangguan Yunk." The young man wore a resentful look as he turned around and left. After 3 days, they finally reached the center of the White Cloud Lake, where there was an island that was as vast as a continent. It was so vast that even 10 Jinlong worlds couldn't compare to it. There were many experts on the island, as well as many fairies. There were many early-stage fairies, middle-stage fairies, and even 1 or 2 late-stage fairies. Su Yu's intuition even detected several oppressive auras, which were the auras of divine masters. Swoosh! The 3 of them landed outside the city. There was a hall at the city's gate that was specially built for the Shangguan family, and it was similar to the Blue Mountain Range's Yuan family. However, the main difference was that there was a formation in the hall that contained spatial power, which could teleport them to the Shangguan family's residence. Yuan Yingying's eyes were filled with envy as she asked, "A spatial formation? It's rumored that only a rare spatial formation master can set it up, and its construction cost is astronomical. The Blue Mountain Range's 10 years of savings can only afford its annual maintenance. In the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, apart from the 18 great factions, only the Shangguan family and a few other great factions can afford it. It's just a short distance teleportation within the island, and it can't be compared to those super teleportation formations that can traverse continents and prefectures." Shangguan Yunk chuckled and didn't seem to care much about it. He then led them into the formation. Su Yu's body was extremely unstable, and he felt like he was floating in the sea. When his feet touched the ground, Su Yu revolved a wisp of spatial power to reduce the sudden impact. His body didn't even sway. On the other hand, Yuan Yingying cried out in alarm. She nearly lost her balance and fell to the ground. However, it was fortunate that Su Yu was still holding her and stabilizing her. Chapter 765. When Su Yu opened his eyes and looked over, he saw a one-eyed middle-aged man wearing flowery clothes and an eye patch. He seemed ferocious, but his gaze was gentle. Su Yu's pupils contracted when he saw that this person was unexpectedly a divine master expert. The one-eyed man was sizing Su Yu up with a curious gaze, while a slight look of approval appeared on his face. It was rare to see someone like him, who could deal with spatial teleportation calmly. Even Shangguan Yunk wasn't as calm as him. "Well, Uncle Qin, why are you the one guarding the formation?" Shangguan Yunk asked in surprise. In the past, weren't the outer family elders the ones guarding the formation? The one-eyed middle-aged man in front of him was the one guarding the formation. Uncle Qin's gaze moved away from Su Yu, while his expression changed slightly. "It's good that you came back. The family master was about to send some experts to receive you." "Uncle Qin, what happened?" Shangguan Yunk raised his brows. It seemed like something was amiss. This teleportation formation led directly to the Shangguan family, which was why it was so important. So, it was guarded by 3 level 9 fairy realm outer family elders all year round. It was only in times of emergency that they would send divine masters to guard it. This was something rarely seen in the Shangguan family's 1,000 years of history. It's a long story. You should quickly pay your respects to the family master. Shangguan Yunk realized that the situation was urgent, so he didn't dare delay any longer. "Uncle Qin, please arrange for my 2 friends. I will come back quickly." Shangguan Yunk cupped his fists at Su Yu and Yuan Yingying, then quickly left. Yuan Yingying whispered into Su Yu's ear, "It seems like something happened in the Yuan family." Su Yu nodded slowly. He could already see some clues about what had happened on the Bird Island 3 days ago. "Sirs, let the attendants take you to a side room. I'm guarding this place, so it's not convenient for me to send you off," Uncle Qin said. Su Yu cupped his fists at him and said, "Senior, I don't dare to trouble you." A pretty female attendant led them to a side room where the Shangguan family received guests. Shangguan Yunk had instructed them to go to a side room, which was quite luxurious. It was a top-notch one, and it was only used to receive distinguished guests. Drink, bang. Before they even approached the courtyard, they heard several shouts echoing from it. It seemed like someone was practicing. The shouts were filled with vigorous blood energy, and Su Yu could faintly see a blood-red light shooting out of the courtyard, which dyed half of the sky red. When he looked through the courtyard's gate, he saw a group of youngsters, who were less than 20 years old, sparring in it. Their ages were generally above 16 and below 20. However, none of them were weak. The weakest among them was a 3 crystals half-fairy, while the highest was a level 4 fairy. The level 4 fairy's opponent was an 18-year-old youth. His fists were extremely smooth, and every time he waved them, the surrounding air would fluctuate. After Suyu had been in Jiuzhou for a month, his mind gradually came to him. It seemed like Jiuzhou's world was much sturdier than the Zhenlong world's, as its space was extremely hard. In the past, it would have been easy for Suyu to shatter the Zhenlong world's space, but in Jiuzhou, it was difficult for him to even shake the space. The fact that this lad was able to shake the space showed how powerful his physical strength was. He was definitely not weaker than Suyu, who had the first dragon's body. Suyu was just at the half-fairy realm, so it would be unfair to compare him to a level 4 fairy realm expert. As expected of the number 1 genius of the 1000 Watershed Ridge, this fist has the strength of 5 elephants. It's at least an elephant's power higher than an ordinary level 4 fairy's. Brother Zhang Fan, you will surely get one of the Red Blood Palace's outer disciple quotas, a short-haired man wearing a leopard skin exclaimed in admiration. An elephant was the unit that Jiuzhou's martial artists used to measure their physical strength. The Great Power King Kong elephant was a common demonic beast in Jiuzhou, and it was famous for its great physical strength. Every elephant's power was equal to a human expert who had just advanced to the level 1 fairy realm. This was why it was used as a unit to measure one's physical strength. Normally, a level 1 fairy realm expert possessed an elephant's power, while a level 2 fairy realm expert possessed an elephant's power. Moreover, every time one's cultivation made a breakthrough, their power would increase by an elephant's power. Once one's physical strength reached the all-creation realm, one would become a legendary all-creation old monster. It could be seen from this that the disparity between an all-creation old monster and a fairy realm expert was obvious. The youngster, whose name was Zhang Fan, was a level 4 fairy realm expert. Normally, he only possessed 4 elephants' power, so it was quite difficult for him to cultivate 5 elephants. It seemed like these people had the same goal as them, which was to enter the Red Blood Palace and use the Shangguan family's recommendation to take the palace's entrance exam. Zhang Fan sighed. Entering the Red Blood Palace is easier said than done. The double extinction exam is a bloody path, and even experts with 6 elephants' power aren't sure if they can pass it. It's still too early to say such a thing. Although he was sighing, his tone sounded as if he was the only one who could do it. The rest of the people understood his meaning, but they pretended not to notice it and continued praising him. This was understandable, as one of the Red Blood Palace's entrance exams was extremely dangerous, and if one could befriend some experts, they would have a higher chance of passing it. Suyu looked at Zhang Fan and nodded calmly. It seemed like entering the Red Blood Palace wasn't an easy task. Hey, look over there. We have new neighbors. It's a young girl and her servant. The man in leopard pelt noticed out of the corner of his eye that a female attendant had brought someone over. He exclaimed in surprise, "It's strange. Half a month has passed since the recommendation deadline. So, why are there still people coming here? Hey, where did you get recommended? Are you from the 9 mountains, 7 mountains, 6 caves and 5 villas?" The youth in leopard pelt asked. They were all recommended representatives from the regions governed by the Shangguan family, so they were qualified to participate in the Red Blood Palace's entrance exam. Yuan Yingying replied, "The Blue Mountain Range." "Impossible," the youth in leopard pelt said. The Shangguan family gave up on recruiting talents from the Blue Mountain Range many years ago, so how could you come from there? The Shangguan clan had set up a martial arts dojo in each of the 9 mountain ranges, 7 mountain ranges, 6 caves and 5 villas. Only the Tsang mountain range was located in a desolate area, where resources were scarce and there was a lack of outstanding disciples. The Shangguan clan didn't care about it. The most important thing was that the Blue Mountain Range was very close to the Soul-Seizing Palace, and the Soul-Seizing Palace would hold the Blue Mountain Meet every year to directly recruit the strongest geniuses. This made it even more difficult for the Shangguan clan to recruit outstanding people. After hundreds of years of zero recommendations, they simply cancelled the recommendation organization. That was why they were so surprised that someone from the Tsang Mountain Range would recommend them. "Don't tell me you guys used your connections to get here?" The leopard-clad youth narrowed his eyes. When Yuan Yingying heard the insult in his words, she said angrily, "What does it have to do with you?" The leopard-skinned youth chuckled. "It has nothing to do with me, but it has something to do with us. Those who take shortcuts are not welcome here." The maidservant, who was about to enter, immediately found herself in a difficult position. She did not know whether to enter or not. Yuan Yingying was somewhat angry that they were targeting them for no reason. Su Yu looked at the leopard-skinned youth disdainfully and said, "It seems like you only have this much potential." They obviously would not target Su Yu and Yuan Yingying for no reason. They just wanted to make things difficult for them because they had one less person to pass the exam. They did not consider their own power, but instead placed their hopes on luck. So, what if they managed to pass the exam? Well, you are a young miss who has to take a servant with you even during the exam. Why don't I see anything special about you? The corners of the youth's mouth curled up into a mocking smile, as he denied that he was trying to ostracize Su Yu and Yuan Yingying. Su Yu didn't bother with him, so he pulled Yuan Yingying along and walked toward his own room. "Stop. Didn't I say that we don't welcome shortcuts here? You should look for another place to stay," the leopard-skinned youth said. Su Yu replied calmly, "Did you say that? Why don't you tell me which young master of the Shangguan family you are? The Shangguan family asked us to stay here, yet you want to drive us away? You are really arrogant." The leopard-skinned youth's expression changed slightly. He then said fiercely, "Don't spout nonsense. I just don't like people like you, who reap without sowing anything. We all managed to pass the exam in a dignified manner, so you too can't compare to us." Su Yu squinted his eyes and said, "You keep saying that you reap without sowing anything and take shortcuts. Why don't you show me how much stronger a dignified genius like you is compared to someone like me, who takes shortcuts?" The geniuses in the surroundings, who were waiting for a good show, all revealed hopeful looks. Although the leopard-skinned youth's behavior was inappropriate, the old man, who had just arrived, was arrogant and displeased. So, they decided to take this opportunity to see how strong this old man was. Tang Feng is a level 3 fairy realm expert. That old man is really interesting, as he challenged him directly. Doesn't he know that he fell for a provocation? It seems like he still doesn't understand the courtyard's rules. Anyone who challenges someone will lose their chance to pass the exam if they lose. He's already so old, yet he's still so impulsive. The leopard-skinned youth revealed a sinister smile. "Fine, I accept your challenge." Su Yu's expression didn't change at all as he listened to the crowd's discussions. In his eyes, Tang Feng was just a nuisance, not even a nuisance. It wouldn't be difficult for him to defeat him, and he had only challenged him because he didn't want to get into trouble. After all, one must keep a low profile. Chapter 766. Su Yu took a step forward and said, "Make your move." His attitude didn't seem like that of a duel, but that of a teacher. "How arrogant!" Tang Feng sneered. Demonic blue sky fist. Tang Feng's palms strangely turned pitch black like the hands of a demon, looking somewhat ferocious. Su Yu's two fists came flying at him, and the pressure from the air currents scraped against Su Yu's face, causing him to feel a slight pain. Zhang Fan nodded in approval. Blue Sky Demonic Fist is a spirit-level cultivation method. After you activate it, you can use demonic energy to strengthen your body. Tang Feng has a good comprehension ability. He has cultivated it to the lower tier of the 3rd level. I'm afraid this old man will be at a disadvantage. Yes. This fist technique is a rather famous basic fist technique in the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Land. If you cultivate it to perfection, you can increase your strength by half an elephant. Right now, the strength of Tang Feng's palms slightly exceeds 3 elephants. Hee. Tang Feng is really vicious and merciless. Not only did he drive them away, he even went all out. Does he want to kill them? They all had the attitude of watching a joke, quietly watching the development of the situation. Su Yu extended both of his hands and punched out without any technique. Rub. At the moment of contact, a tsunami-like energy erupted from his opponent's body and surged into Su Yu's. Su Yu took 2 steps back, tapped the tip of his toes, and easily stabilized himself. Tang Feng retreated 3 steps in a row. His body swayed a few times before he managed to steady himself. His face was filled with shock and seriousness. The pupils of the spectators constricted, and a strange expression appeared on their faces. How did he do it? Many experts were surprised. Could a half-fairy withstand the all-out attack of a 3 crystals half-fairy? There was a huge gap between a half-fairy and a fairy. Without the use of magical treasures, it would be difficult for both of their battle powers to be evenly matched. Zhang Fan stared at Su Yu and scanned Su Yu's arm. He noticed that the internal energy channel on the back of Su Yu's hand was strangely golden. Su Yu withdrew his fists. He had a rough understanding of his own power, which was probably between 3 elephants and 3.5 elephants. The physical body of the first dragon body was roughly at this level. If he could study the dragon race's language and understand the later chapters of the evil dragon divine body, he might have a chance to further refine his physical body. I don't see how you are any better than me, who took shortcuts, even if you worked hard to get here. Su Yu said calmly. Tang Feng felt ashamed. He gritted his teeth and shouted in a deep voice, again, I was just careless earlier. Whoosh! Yuan Yingying stepped forward and said, Let me do it. You're not Uncle Su's match. In his heart, Uncle Su was an expert comparable to a divine master. There was really no need for him to tangle with the junior in front of him. Tang Feng's face turned cold. Don't expect me to show mercy to the fairer sex. At this moment, a faint sneer floated through the air. The assessment hasn't even started and they're already fighting amongst themselves? A sudden sneer came from the courtyard next door. He looked up and saw a graceful woman standing on top of the courtyard wall. She was dressed in a palace robe and had delicate features. She looked down at them with disdain. The woman's appearance was extremely beautiful. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were as clear as a mountain spring. Her fine black hair spread out behind her, fluttering in the wind. Under the sunlight, he looked like a celestial being. Miss Shangguan. The faces of the contestants changed slightly, and they hurriedly stepped forward to greet her. Zhang Fan was no exception. As Su Yu looked at the person on the wall, he was slightly surprised. Shangguan Qing'er? Wasn't she killed by the Bai family's father and son in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion? Why is she here? Shangguan Qing'er was the Red Blood Palace's master and Mo Tianxuan's registered disciple. She possessed a weak bloodline of an ancient spirit body, and she had gone to the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion to bring back an ancient spirit body. She had mistakenly thought that Su Yu was an ancient spirit body, and in the end, she had died miserably in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Humph! Shangguan Qing'er landed and looked at Tang Feng. What that old man said was right. You don't take your own power seriously, and you place your hopes on forcing others to join the Red Blood Palace. Even if you join the Red Blood Palace, you won't have any future prospects. You can leave now. Come back next time, Shangguan Qing'er said. Tang Feng's face turned deathly pale when he heard this. Shangguan Qing'er had deprived him of his right to participate in the assessment. The next time the Red Blood Palace would recruit him would be in 3 years. At that time, he would already be over 20 years old, and he wouldn't meet the Red Blood Palace's recruitment criteria. Tang Feng wore a gloomy look as he left. Shangguan Qing'er's gaze swept over Su Yu and Yuan Yingying before it finally fell on Su Yu. She then examined him with her bright eyes and raised her brows. Haven't we met before? Even though Su Yu's face looked old, he still had traces of his youth. Miss Shangguan, you must be joking. I'm just a trifling wandering cultivator, so how could I have the honor of seeing your true appearance? Su Yu asked. Shangguan Qing'er was confused for a moment before she pursed her lips and said, perhaps. However, you can leave now. You have already escorted her here, so you can set your mind at ease and leave her here. This is a special period, and outsiders can't stay here for long, Shangguan Qing'er said. The corners of Su Yu's mouth twitched, and his face became slightly flushed. Miss, I'm just here to participate in the assessment. Shangguan Qing'er wasn't the only one who was dumbfounded. Zhang Fan and the others were also dumbfounded. Huh? You? Shangguan Qing'er turned around and examined Su Yu curiously. Are you saying that you aren't even 20 years old yet? Su Yu nodded. That's right. It's because of my cultivation that I'm in such a state. The crowd was confused, and they all wondered, how did he manage to cultivate to such an extent? Ah, Uncle Su Yu, you aren't even 20 years old yet? Yuan Yingying asked in disbelief. On the way here, she had heard Shangguan Yunque calling him Brother Su. She didn't understand what he meant by that, but now she knew that it was because of him. But, if he was really just 20 years old, then wouldn't she have taken advantage of him by calling him Uncle Su? Moreover, he had even kissed and hugged him. Yuan Yingying glared at Su Yu with narrowed eyes. When Su Yu detected her gaze, he coughed dryly and said, I will explain it to you later. It's true. Shangguan Qing'er's eyes flickered. His outer appearance is that of an old man's, but his lifespan seems to be declining rapidly. So, he should really be in his 20s. After they confirmed that Su Yu was also an examinee, the expressions of many geniuses became odd. You should all rest for a day. Tomorrow you will meet my father. The day after tomorrow, a Red Blood Palace's escort elder will take you to the Red Blood Palace, Shangguan Qing'er said before she clasped her hands behind her back and left. Everyone got along with each other peacefully, and there were even several level 1 fairies who came over to befriend Su Yu. Su Yu dealt with them easily, as even if he didn't befriend them, he still didn't offend them. When night fell, Su Yu took out the last pure yang vital return pill. After it entered his body, its warm energy helped him repair his internal energy channel. Now, his internal energy channel had already recovered to its peak state. After he examined his internal energy channel carefully, he discovered that it was 30% stronger than before. This was the reason why Su Yu possessed a power rivaling a level 3 fairy. It should be due to the fate-altering pill, Su Yu muttered. In the past, he had used the fate-altering pill to fight against the Blood Emperor, and his body had been destroyed many times by the Blood Emperor, only to be reborn again by the fate-altering pill. His internal energy channel had been greatly stimulated, and it had been secretly strengthened. In fact, it wasn't just his internal energy channel that had been strengthened, as every part of his body had also been strengthened. Once his body recovered, his body's power would rise by another level, and it would reach at least 3.5 elephants' power, or even 4 elephants' power. Now that his internal energy channel was unobstructed, it was time for him to break through to the fairy realm. As a light flickered in Su Yu's palm, a cloud galloping horse appeared in his left hand, while a level 4 fairy expansion pill appeared in his right. It's time for me to break through to the fairy realm. Su Yu's eyes flickered. As he looked around, Su Yu decided to swallow the cloud galloping horse. The cloud galloping horse contained an extremely pure energy, which could stimulate the vital energy crystal's transformation. As Su Yu opened his mouth and swallowed the cloud galloping horse, an ice-cold liquid flowed down his throat and into his abdomen, then turned into a tremendous amount of pure energy that entered his dantian through his veins. Su Yu's dantian was divided into two layers, the heaven dantian and the earth dantian. As the pure energy filled his external dantian, it created a great pressure on him. An intense pain transmitted from his external dantian, and as more and more energy flowed into it, it felt like the external dantian was on the verge of exploding. When all of the cloud galloping horse's energy flowed into it, the external dantian couldn't bear it any longer, and it exploded with a loud rumble. The external dantian, which was the size of a fist, exploded into a space that was the size of an acre. The three solidified vital energy crystals were torn apart by the explosion, and the vital energy within them turned into liquid vital energy, which flowed out and filled the whole space. In the twinkling of an eye, the external dantian turned from a small, closed space into a lake that was the size of an acre. At the same time, the world's spiritual energy started flowing into Su Yu's body like a tornado. The spiritual energy, which entered his body, was compressed into vital energy, which was then compressed into a liquid state, which then fell into the lake. For 6 whole hours, Su Yu's external dantian was filled with liquefied vital energy, which seemed like it was raining. When the vital energy stopped flowing into Su Yu's body, the whole external dantian was filled with liquefied vital energy. Compared to the 3 vital energy crystals in the past, the amount of vital energy he could store was 10 times greater. After all, the amount and purity of the vital energy between a fairy and a half-fairy couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. When he used all of the cultivation techniques he had cultivated in the past with the fairy realm's vital energy, their might increased by several fold. However, Su Yu was astonished to discover that the heavenly tribulation, which he had expected, didn't appear. This meant that he still hadn't achieved a breakthrough. What's going on? Su Yu was quite confused, and as he examined his external dantian, an odd look appeared on his face. His external dantian had indeed turned into a lake, but his internal dantian was still a small space that was the size of a fist. The 3 vital energy crystals were still floating there, motionless. Does my external dantian also need to expand in order to achieve a breakthrough? Su Yu asked. At this moment, Yuan Yingying, who had detected Su Yu's disturbance, quickly rushed over. When she noticed the change in Su Yu's aura, she asked curiously, "Brother Su, did you achieve a breakthrough? Why does your aura seem so powerful, yet it's also somewhat indistinct? I can't even see through your cultivation." The corners of Su Yu's mouth twitched. He was afraid that no one could understand his current situation. After Su Yu mulled it over for a moment, he swallowed another cloud galloping horse. However, all of its energy flowed into his external dantian, and it couldn't enter his internal dantian. The cloud galloping horse couldn't achieve a breakthrough anymore. Su Yu's gaze became gloomy as he looked at the Grade 4 Fairy Expansion pill in his right palm. Chapter 767. When his dantian had been reborn, he possessed a vital energy that surpassed even a half-fairy's. He didn't expect that it would become an obstacle for him to break through to the fairy realm. However, after a night of breaking through, it was already dawn, and he needed to meet the Shangguan family's master. His character was worthy of praise, as he had insisted on fulfilling his promise and marrying the Yuan family. After an hour, a maid came to deliver breakfast. After eating, they gathered together and were brought to the Shangguan family's guest hall. The Shangguan family's master was sitting there solemnly. Shangguan Yunk and Shangguan Qing'er, who were the core members of the Shangguan family, were also there. The Shangguan family's master had a fair and beardless face, and he wore a dignified expression. Shangguan Yunk and Shangguan Qing'er were sitting below him, wearing solemn and respectful expressions. The Shangguan family's master looked at them with a sharp gaze, as if he could see through their hearts. Su Yu was surprised to see that the Shangguan family's master's cultivation had reached the Divine Master realm, and he was even a middle-stage Divine Master. His whole body didn't emit any aura, but it still gave people a suffocating feeling. The young geniuses who were swept by his gaze all felt their blood surge and their hearts become stifled. His calm gaze swept over everyone expressionlessly, and when it fell on Su Yu, it stopped for a moment. Not bad. I believe that even if you work hard, you will still be able to achieve great things, the Shangguan family's master said. I have 10 quotas here, which can allow you to stay in the Shangguan family and receive our family's training. What do you think? A strange look appeared in the depths of Su Yu's eyes. He should have recommended them to join the Red Blood Palace, so why did he ask them to stay in the Shangguan family instead? The Shangguan family was indeed powerful, and they could get many cultivation resources after taking up a post, but how could they compare to the 18 great factions? Moreover, the Red Blood Palace was a giant among the 18 great factions. If they had the opportunity to join the Red Blood Palace, their futures would be limited if they stayed in the Shangguan family. Zhang Fan thought for a moment, then asked, Lord Shangguan, can you explain the reason to us? If this matter was out of the ordinary, they would probably lose the opportunity to join the Red Blood Palace. The Shangguan family's master stared at Zhang Fan and nodded. He didn't need to answer, but he still did it. You all have outstanding talents, and only a few of you can join the Red Blood Palace. However, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands situation has changed. The Shangguan clan's patriarch said, Our Shangguan clan's 8 flying beast garrisons were attacked at the same time. My son was almost killed, and many of our properties were destroyed by unknown forces. I've contacted the other powers, and I've learned that it wasn't just our Shangguan clan. All the other big clans were attacked by some unknown force. Among them, the Shiman clan was annihilated by a mysterious man in just one night, and none of them survived. Zhang Fan's pupils shrank. The Shiman clan was exterminated? In the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, there were countless superpowers, and each of them had their own ranking. Among them, the Shangguan clan was ranked 2nd, and the Shiman clan was ranked 3rd. However, such a superpower that ruled over millions and millions of territories had been annihilated overnight? What kind of extravagance was this? Only sects in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands possess such power. The others were also extremely shocked, and their hairs stood on end. A powerful family that had existed for hundreds of years was destroyed just like that. A powerful dark force has infiltrated the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and it's slowly devouring the other factions. Our Shangguan clan is unfortunate, and we've become one of its targets. The Shangguan family's patriarch wore a grave expression. This is why we decided to send all of our Shangguan clan's juniors to the Red Blood Palace, so that our family's bloodline won't be annihilated like the Shiman clans. This is the only way we can avoid being annihilated. Upon hearing this, Zhang Fan and the others' expressions became unsightly. Our Shangguan clan's recommendation quota is limited, so we can only trouble you. If we have another chance in 3 years, we will surely do our best to recommend you. If you are willing to stay, our Shangguan clan will also train you diligently. Sure enough, their quota had been taken by the Shangguan clan's disciples. I will give you a day to consider it. Before the envoy arrives tomorrow, I hope that you can give me an answer. You can decide whether you want to stay in the Shangguan clan or pursue your future. The Shangguan family's patriarch waved his hand at them, then returned to the back hall helplessly. Shangguan Yunk looked at Su Yu and Yuan Yingying, then braced himself and followed him. Father, I have already agreed to recommend Brother Su and Yuan Yingying. Can you give them 2 quotas? After all, only 2 or 3 people in our family can pass the Red Blood Palace's test, so why should we waste the quotas? Shangguan Yunk asked. The Shangguan family's patriarch turned around, while helplessness appeared on his face. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to do it either. Keeping one's word is my principle, but this matter concerns our family's life and death, so I must make an exception. But, Brother Su saved my life, and if it wasn't for his reminder, I would have already been killed by those evil people. Those people obviously came for me. Shangguan Yunk was quite worried. The Shangguan family's patriarch sighed. This matter isn't something I can decide alone. The family's old men are trying to preserve their bloodline, and even though they know that they will fail, they still want to give it a try. If I insist on this, I will surely lose the support of the people, and it will be dangerous for the family to be divided at such a critical moment. So, I can only let down this generation's juniors. If Su Yu and Yuan Yingying are willing to stay in the Shangguan family, please take care of them. Shangguan Yunk's eyes became dejected as he realized that he had no hope of winning. After he thought for a long while, he rolled his eyes and took his leave. Meanwhile, Shangguan Qing'er was cultivating in the garden. There was a watermark between her eyebrows, which emitted a dense mist. Sister, I haven't seen you for a few days, yet you have already cultivated your water lore to the novice realm. I'm really not as good as you, as I haven't comprehended a single lore yet. Shangguan Yunk walked over to his sister's back. Shangguan Qing'er opened her eyes, turned around and pursed her lips. She rolled her eyes and said, "You are always idling around, and I spent so much effort to make you an inner sanctum disciple, yet you just wander around and play with your friends. Who can you blame for that? If you had focused half of your attention on the martial path, you would have already become a divine master. Your talent isn't low." Shangguan Yunk was embarrassed by her words. "All right, if you have something to say, just say it." Shangguan Qing'er stood up gracefully. Her graceful figure, which was wrapped in her palace clothes, was quite distinct. Shangguan Yunk coughed softly and said, "I just want to ask, which elder is in charge of guiding our Shangguan family this time?" Shangguan Qing'er asked suspiciously, "You don't care about this, so why are you asking about it? Why are you asking so many questions? You are the palace master's registered disciple, so you can look at the recruitment situation at any time. I don't believe that you haven't paid attention to who is coming to guide our Shangguan family this time," Shangguan Yunk urged her. Shangguan Qing'er rolled her eyes at him and said mysteriously, "This year, it isn't an elder, but an outer sanctum disciple who has accepted a mission. Is he going to carry it out as a mission?" "Disciple?" Shangguan Yunk furrowed his brows. How could an ordinary disciple be qualified to receive a disciple? Moreover, it is an outer sanctum disciple. Are you talking about the Demon Mountain's 4 great demons? Shangguan Qing'er revealed a faint smile. You are right. It is a demon from the Demon Mountain, and it is a female demon. This year, she is in charge of guiding us. When he heard her, Shangguan Yunk's lips twitched, and his pupils contracted. He was quite afraid of the so-called 4 great demons, and even though he was already an inner sanctum disciple, he was still afraid of the 4 outer sanctum disciples. Brother Su, it isn't that I don't want to help you this time, but I really don't dare to. Each of those 4 demons is more monstrous than the last, and if I ran into any of them, I wouldn't even have enough time to run away. Shangguan Yunk spoke bitterly. He had wanted to find out the envoy's identity and introduce Su Yu and Shangguan Qing'er to him so that he could take them away secretly. However, who would have expected that the envoy would be someone from the Demon Mountain? Even with Shangguan Yunk's status, he couldn't afford to offend the Demon Mountain's 4 people. In a side room, a group of geniuses came back quietly, their expressions unsightly. Such a sudden blow had left them at a loss. Should they stay in the Shangguan family or should they leave? They didn't have any hope of getting a place in the exam, as the Shangguan family wouldn't allow outsiders to benefit from it. Damn it! I worked so hard for 3 years, yet in the end, I still have to become the Shangguan family's vassal. I can't even fulfill my life's ambitions. A level 2 fairy realm expert subconsciously pounded the courtyard's wall. A level 2 fairy realm woman next to him sighed weakly and said, "Maybe this is our fate, and it might not be a bad thing for us to stay in the Shangguan family." The woman's words comforted many people. Now that you mention it, even though we have a large number of people, and it seems like we have great power. Only 2 or 3 of us are sure of passing the exam. After all, the Red Blood Palace's external disciple recruitment test is known for being extremely harsh, and most of us are just trying our luck. It would be better for us to stay in the Shangguan family than to be sent back to our hometown after failing the exam. Only 10% of the Red Blood Palace's disciples were recruited from external disciples. More than 90% were recruited from the 7 great factions under its jurisdiction, such as the Soul-Seizing Palace. Every 3 years, the 7 great factions' martial arts meet would be held, and the disciples of the lower sanctums who performed outstandingly could join the Red Blood Palace of their own free will. In the Red Blood Palace, this was equivalent to internal recruitment. The internal disciples were recruited from the 7 great lower sanctums, and regardless of whether they had a clean background or talent, they had already passed the lower sanctums test in advance. Hence, the recruitment requirements were quite relaxed. Internal techniques were easier and more convenient than external technique. Moreover, the potential of the recruited disciples was also quite shocking. This was why the Red Blood Palace favored internal technique. As for external recruitment, it was extremely harsh, and if 10 out of 100 people managed to pass the exam, it would be considered as a man with a high passing rate. Among the 20 so-called geniuses, only Zhang Fan had a chance of entering the Red Blood Palace. If Su Yu really wanted to make up the numbers, he would still have a chance. As for the others, they could only rely on luck. I don't need to consider it, as I choose to stay in the Shangguan family. It's better than getting nothing. The crowd quickly accepted their fate. It was only Zhang Fan, Su Yu, and Yuan Yingying who hadn't made a decision yet. Brother Su, why don't we go back to the Blue Mountain Range and continue making elixirs? With your abilities and my talent in alchemy, as long as you persevere, you can be self-sufficient in terms of resources. You don't need to live under the Shangguan family's roof. After Yuan Yingying went back to Su Yu's room, she supported her chin with her hands and stared at the flickering candlelight. Her pretty eyes were filled with disappointment. The family's hopes were all on her, yet she had to go back like this. Chapter 768. After thinking for a moment, Su Yu said, "Let's fight for it tomorrow. If we can't convince the Shangguan family's master, we will settle for the next best thing, which is to enter the Soul-Seizing Palace." With Elder Liao's help, it wouldn't be difficult for Su Yu and Yuan Yingying to join the outer sanctum. The only regret was that all of the Soul-Seizing Palace's inner sanctum elders knew what Su Yu looked like, and they knew that he was extremely dangerous. It seemed that he needed to change his appearance and disguise himself. After preparing his escape route, Su Yu's mind was calm. The next morning, they had already been invited by the maidservants to the reception hall, where only the head of the Shangguan family and his son and daughter were present. "Everyone, what do you think?" The Shangguan family master looked at the 4 of them and calmly swept his gaze across them. He only felt slightly apologetic towards Zhang Fan. He was the one who was affected the most. The rest of the people looked at each other helplessly. 17 of them were willing to stay in the Shangguan clan. Of course, there were only 10 slots. After they left, they would definitely be tested by the Shangguan clan. Zhang Fan's eyes shone brightly. "Shangguan clan head, if you can give me a chance, I will serve the Shangguan clan for 10 years if I am successful in the future. I will swear an oath to prove it." The Shangguan family head was startled. He didn't expect Zhang Fan to not give up yet, but he couldn't do anything about it. "You only have 2 choices, leave or join the Shangguan clan." The Shangguan clan chief rejected the suggestion. Zhang Fan's eyes darkened and a bitter smile appeared on his face. "All right, I'll stay." His future was severed just like that. "What about you?" the Shangguan family's master asked as he looked at Su Yu and Yuan Yingying. Shangguan Yunk sighed. He was too ashamed to look at Su Yu's eyes. Su Yu felt helpless. Even Zhang Fan's promise couldn't change the Shangguan family's master's mind, let alone them. "Shangguan family's master, many thanks for your good intentions. We have troubled you for coming here, so we will take our leave now. Su Yu's words were concise and comprehensive. If he contacted Elder Liao now, he might still be able to enter the soul-seizing palace. Choose to leave? The Shangguan clan master said, Wait, my son is indebted to you. If you are willing to stay, there will be an important position for you. Su Yu cupped his fists at her, then pulled Yuan Yingying along as he turned around and left the hall. The Shangguan family's master felt that it was a pity, as his son had already told him that Su Yu possessed a mysterious technique that could kill even a level 6 fairy in a single night. As for that lassie, she was a talented person who could refine 4th-grade spirit elixirs. If she had stayed with the Shangguan family, she would have been a great help to them. A group of brightly dressed young men and women stood outside the guest hall. They were well dressed and had an extraordinary temperament. Many of them had good cultivations, and there was even a level 3 fairy realm youngster among them. He was only 18 years old, and he was probably one of the Shangguan family's outstanding people. They were waiting leisurely outside, and when they saw that Su Yu and Yuan Yingying were the first to come out, they heaved sighs of relief. It turned out that they were worried that the Shangguan clan master would return the recommendation quota to them out of benevolence. Phew! It seems like there isn't any problem. Family master, you are truly a righteous person. A 3 crystals half-fairy realm young girl curled up the corners of her mouth, while delight appeared on her face. The level 3 fairy realm youth, who was the leader of the group, looked at Su Yu and Shangguan Yu arrogantly and said, Only the one with the surname Zhang is passable. As for the others, they will just be wasting their time. Why don't we let our Shangguan family's younger generation have a try? We don't owe them anything. Su Yu and Shuang were only at the 3 crystals half-fairy realm, so he didn't care about them at all. Su Yu looked straight ahead and turned a deaf ear to them. He didn't pay any attention to them at all. His attitude seemed to agitate the boys and girls. Look at that old man. It seems like he isn't willing to accept it. A young girl stared at Su Yu with displeasure. It's only human nature. If I were in his place, I would also be unwilling to accept it, even if I understood that participating in the test would be a waste. Is he the strange examinee whose lifespan was greatly reduced? Even though he was only 18 years old, he looked like he was 80 years old. TSK. Even if he participated in the test, he still wouldn't welcome him. Swoosh. All of a sudden, a cool breeze blew over from the guest hall, and 3 slaps echoed out. Slap, slap, slap. A red palm print was left on the faces of the 3 boys and girls, who had just spoken harshly. Before they could get angry, a man clad in a white robe appeared in front of them with his hands clasped behind his back. His cold eyes were filled with disappointment. Ignorant people are fearless. Shangguan Yunk scolded them in a deep voice. You took their quota without any qualms, yet you don't know how to apologize? My Shangguan family's reputation has already been ruined by you. The level 3 fairy realm youth said, Big brother, he was the one who looked down on us first. My 3 brothers and sisters were displeased, so they used harsh words. Please forgive them. Shangguan Yunk glanced at him and said calmly, I know Brother Su's character better than you do. Moreover, even if he looks down on you, he still has the right to look down on you. You should regret that you lost a powerful helper who could help you in this test. He was clearly aware that Su Yu had many unimaginable tricks up his sleeves, as he had personally witnessed the Elixir Production Alliance's destruction in a single night. Shangguan Fei's expression froze as he wondered, does a trifling half-fairy really have the right to look down on us? Big brother, you must be joking. As long as I'm here, I will surely be able to protect our family's brothers and sisters and get through the test. Even if I'm not here, our family has still invited many helpers, and they will help us when the time comes. Shangguan Yunk glanced at them and shook his head calmly. Summer insects can't talk about ice. As he brushed past them, Shangguan Yunk went over to Su Yu and cupped his fists at him. His face was filled with shame as he said, "Brother Su, I'm sorry, but the family's will is firm, and I wasn't able to persuade my father. You have come here in vain." Su Yu revealed a faint smile. "Brother Shangguan, you don't need to blame yourself, as I understand your intentions." Shangguan Yunk's character was still worthy of praise. "It's all thanks to you that I'm still alive, and I can't repay you for your kindness. So, I'll give you the blue water 9 heaven wings to protect yourself." Shangguan Yunk was quite forthright as he gave Su Yu a pair of exquisite wings that were a foot long. They were snow white and lifelike, as if they were really living creatures. Yuan Yingying's eyes widened in shock. Such a single-use spiritual artifact was worth more than 100,000 spirit crystals, and even Shangguan Yunk wouldn't be willing to use it. Yet, he was now giving it to Su Yu. Shock appeared on the faces of the Shangguan juniors, who were standing in the distance. They all wondered, how could he give such a precious item to Su Yu so easily? Su Yu was startled by this, and he hesitated for a moment. Shangguan Yunk then stuffed it into Su Yu's hands and said, "Brother Su, the recent situation is quite strange, and your journey back home won't be peaceful. So, you must accept this spiritual artifact which can help you escape. Only then can I feel at ease." When Su Yu felt Shangguan Yunk's sincerity, he accepted it and took a look at him, while inwardly remembering his kindness. "We will meet again in the future. Take care of yourself." After Su Yu left the giant island, he looked in the direction of the Blue Mountain Range and prepared to go back. Suddenly, he raised his brows and opened his spatial ring in surprise. A purple badge fell into his palm. He had gotten the Severed Fairy Cliff's purple badge from Xiao Tao. At this moment, the badge was trembling slightly and emitting a purple halo. All of a sudden, a light flickered on the badge, while a line of small words appeared on it. "The previous host has already died. The new host, please accept the test mission." This badge would only become a true Severed Fairy Cliff's identity badge after it passed a test. At that time, its owner's name would be engraved on it. Xiao Tao had been hiding in the Yuan family for many years in order to carry out the test mission. However, it was a pity that her efforts were in vain, as Su Yu had discovered her and killed her. It seemed like Xiao Tao's death had already been discovered by the Severed Fairy Cliff, which was why they had issued a new test mission to the badge. A test mission to become a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff? Su Yu was speechless. He had never thought about becoming a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. At this moment, the purple light flickered once again and 2 lines of small words appeared on it. Test mission. Protect the Sidhu family's juniors and pass the Red Blood Palace's test. If you succeed in protecting one person, the mission will be considered completed. Mission requirements. You must be below 20 years old and qualified to participate in the test. You must be at least a grade 3 fairy. You are allowed to bring at most 3 people to help you. If you meet the requirements, please hurry to the Sky Castle within 3 days. Su Yu was stunned. A mission from the Severed Fairy Cliff? Moreover, it seemed like it was being issued to many people at the same time. Yuan Yingying was surprised. The Severed Fairy Cliff's badge? "Brother Su, why do you have it?" Su Yu explained the situation to her briefly, and only then did she understand. Her eyes became filled with curiosity as she said, "I've heard about the badge's miraculous effects. This mission seems to be an urgent one. Brother Su, why don't we participate in it?" Su Yu's eyes lit up as he looked at the mission. "There's always a way. I think we still have a chance to enter the Red Blood Palace." A day later, the Shangguan family's envoy left with the people who were going to participate in the test. However, a small incident occurred. Zhang Fan was accidentally discovered by the envoy, who then took him away to participate in the test. Because of this, the Shangguan family had to bear the brunt of the envoy's anger. It was said that after the envoy left, everyone in the Shangguan family, including the family master and the maidservants, suffered from diarrhea for an entire day. On the same day, outside the giant island, a group of martial artists, which shone with a golden light, descended. They have already left. We will surely catch up to them within 2 days, the leader of the group said calmly. All of a sudden, the 5 people disappeared into thin air. The Shangguan family's master, who was a middle-stage divine master, was completely unaware of this. 2 days later, in the Sky Castle. The so-called Sky Castle wasn't really a castle, but a strange region in the Zhenlong continent. Since ancient times, this vast region had been separated from the continent, and it had floated in the sky for countless months. Hence, it was called the Sky Castle. This region was occupied by the Situ family, and its territory was only slightly weaker than the Shangguan family's. The Situ family was ranked just behind the Shiman family, and it was a superpower that was ranked 4th in the rankings. After Su Yu arrived at the Sky Castle, he went to a desolate land called the Heavenly Sword Valley. Before coming here, Su Yu and Yuan Yingying had concealed their appearances slightly. When they arrived, there were already 6 people in the valley. They were divided into 2 groups, and they were all disguised. It was obvious that they had received the news and rushed over to take the test. They were all going to become purple members of the Severed Fairy Cliff. His arrival made the 2 groups become slightly vigilant. The 3 groups maintained a tacit understanding, and they didn't utter a single word as they waited for their next orders. Swoosh! All of a sudden, a figure silently appeared above the valley. He was wearing a white mask, and his whole body was engulfed by vital energy. Chapter 769. May I know who you are? A purple member asked. The masked man descended slowly. His aura was restrained, but it still gave people a sense of oppression. He was a divine master. I'm the one who issued the mission, he said. Since he could issue missions through the badge, he was undoubtedly an official member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. Moreover, he was probably related to the Situ family. Your mission is to protect the 3 juniors of the Situ family and help them pass the test, the masked man said. Is there a problem? Su Yu pondered for a moment. Can you explain to me what the Red Blood Palace's test mission consists of? The masked man nodded. The Red Blood Palace's test consists of 2 parts, known as the Double Extreme Test. The first part is to kill a demonic beast with a higher cultivation level or 20 demonic beasts of the same cultivation level in the primeval forest. Anyone who succeeds will pass the first part. Kill a demonic beast with a higher cultivation level? Su Yu thought it was cruel. There were very few people who could fight above their cultivation level, so the requirement was really harsh. Even killing 10 demonic beasts of the same cultivation level was difficult. The longer one stayed in the complex primeval forest, the more dangerous it would be. It was said that the Red Blood Palace's tests were cruel, and it was true. The number of examinees who died in the primeval forest over the years was probably far more than the survivors. The second part is in the Red Blood Palace's Dragon Gate. When you cross a Dragon Gate, a powerful heavy water will fall from it. If you don't reach the 3rd grade fairy level, you will probably be smashed into the abyss by the heavy water. The death rate is very high. It sounded like a very cruel test. The name, Double Extreme, was right. The Red Blood Palace was the leader of the 18 factions, so it was normal for it to have a strict entrance test. Any more questions? The masked man asked. The crowd shook their heads. His eyes shone. If that's the case, I'll start verifying whether you meet the requirements. If you do, the Situ family will recommend you to participate in the Red Blood Palace's recruitment test. During the test, you will help the juniors of the Situ family pass the test. You should know the Severed Fairy Cliff's rules. Once you accept a mission, you can't cancel it or violate it, unless you die. If you are found to have used a mission to deceive the recommendation and disregard your protectors, you will be hunted down by the Severed Fairy Cliff. Hearing this, the other 2 groups looked solemn. This was a taboo. There was once an all-creations old monster who had accepted a mission but refused to carry it out. As a result, he was hunted down by the Severed Fairy Cliff, and his body and soul were destroyed. Therefore, one had to be cautious when accepting a mission. Either they didn't accept it, or they had to carry it out after accepting it. Even if they knew that they would fail, they still had to carry it out. Otherwise, they would regret it very much. He then added, "Of course, if you ensure that the Sidhu family's juniors complete the mission, you can also complete the test and enter the Red Blood Palace. We won't stop you, nor will we oppose it. In fact, if you are willing to work for the Sidhu family in the future, we can even use our connections in the Red Blood Palace to obtain benefits for you." He believed that the people who accepted the mission would understand what to do. Now, let's begin the verification of your conditions. First, you must be below the age of 20 to participate in the assessment. Second, your power must be at least a level 3 fairy. The masked man took out a disc and threw it at them. Drip your blood on it. If you're older than 20, there will be a reaction. The other two groups did the same and dripped their essence blood, but the disc didn't change at all. When it was Yuan Yingying's turn, she naturally passed. Finally, it was Su Yu's turn. He was a little nervous. After dripping his blood onto the plate, there was no reaction from it. He had passed the test. Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief and looked at the masked man. "All right, let the most crucial test begin. Your strength. Only level 3 fairies and above are qualified to protect others. As a matter of fact, even a level 4 fairy wouldn't be able to guarantee that he would be able to pass it, let alone a level 3 fairy. However, all of the level 4 fairies were peerless geniuses of their respective regions. How could he not have the opportunity to take the test? Hence, he settled for the next best thing, choosing the level 3 fairy realms requirement. He also added a condition, which was that he could bring 2 people with him. "If you can take a palm strike from me, then you'll pass the test. You'll be tested one by one in group." The masked man then said, "My palm's might is between that of a level 4 fairy and a level 5 fairy. If your team's power can withstand it, then you will pass the test." Hearing this, everyone's expression turned solemn. The first group of 3 people stepped forward. One of them was a level 3 fairy, while the other 2 were level 2 fairies. It seemed like they also didn't pass the test, so they hoped to pass the Sidhu family's test. When the 3 of them were ready, the masked man slapped at them from afar. A solid palm imprint similar in size to his palm imprint flew towards the 3 of them without dispersing. The 3 of them did not dare to be careless. They all used their secret arts to resist this palm strike together. Bang! Splutter! The 3 of them didn't even manage to resist it for half a breath's time, as they were all sent flying. "You've failed the test," the masked man said in disappointment. "You can leave now, as you don't meet the mission's requirements." The 3 of them covered their wounds with their hands and left with bitter looks on their faces. "You go," the masked man said as he looked at the second group. This group had 2 level 3 fairies and 1 level 2 fairy. It was an impressive lineup. The masked man sent another palm imprint, which was the size of a palm. This time, the 3 of them managed to resist it for 3 breaths' time before they were forced back, leaving behind long grooves on the ground. Many of their bodies had sustained injuries, and they were in a sorry state. The masked man nodded calmly, hesitated for a moment, then nodded helplessly. "Fine, you've passed the test, and you're qualified to accept the mission." It was obvious that he wasn't satisfied with them, as they were only barely satisfactory. The 3 of them were overjoyed, and they stood aside to rest while they observed Su Yu's team. One of them was a half-fairy, while the other had a vague cultivation. This was a strange combination, and it left them speechless. Even if their cultivations weren't high enough, they could still find another person to help them. But they couldn't even gather 3 people, yet they still dared to accept the cruel test's protection mission? As the masked man examined the 2 of them, he couldn't help but mutter inwardly, "What are half-fairies doing here?" Despite his displeasure, the masked man still asked them patiently, "What do you plan to do?" What he meant was that they could leave now, as there was no need for the test. After all, if a level 4 fairy attacked them with a palm strike, they would probably die on the spot. Suyu replied, "We're standing here to accept the test, so you can attack us as you please." Upon hearing this, the three people looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't understand where Suyu's confidence came from. The masked man was slightly surprised, and as he examined Suyu carefully, he noticed that Suyu's aura was quite strange. Suyu seemed like a half-fairy, yet he was stronger than one. He seemed like a fairy, yet he possessed a half-fairy's aura. Even he couldn't see through Suyu's cultivation. This lad is quite strange. Why is he so confident? Does he have some kind of trump card? The masked man pondered this before he shook his head. The disparity between their cultivations was too great, so there shouldn't be too many variables. "Fine, I will use a level 1 fairy's power to test you," the masked man said as he waved his palm. Suyu waved his fist casually. He didn't use his first dragon body, but just the vital energy lake in his external dantian. Slap. His opponent's palm seal was instantly shattered. Well, the masked man was slightly surprised. What pure vital energy! It seems like it belongs to a level 1 fairy. Take another palm strike. This time, it was a level 2 fairy's power. Suyu took a deep breath, while he revolved his internal and external dantians at the same time. Slap. The palm seal was destroyed. The expressions of the three people watching the fight became grave, and their leader said, "Something is amiss. This lad's body is quite strange, as it seems like it can increase his vital energy by 10%. But, even then, it still can't block a level 2 fairy's attack. It seems like his body is quite powerful." The masked man was slightly surprised. "It's a pretty good body. Come again." This time, it was a level 3 fairy's power. Suyu's arm's meridian instantly turned golden, as he used his first dragon body. Slap. The palm seal was destroyed once again. This time, the three people's expressions changed. Hiss. His body's power is at least 3 elephants and a half, and it's even stronger than mine, the leader said solemnly. He didn't think that it would be easy for him to block the masked man's palm strike. As for the masked man, he was quite surprised, and his eyes lit up with interest. Interesting. A half-fairy's cultivation, a level 3 fairy's powerful body. It's no wonder that you are so confident. Since that's the case, let's use the last strike. Heh. The level 4 fairy's palm seal flew toward him. Suyu's gaze was calm as he pointed his finger at it. A strange scene appeared, as the palm seal was suddenly split into 2. It seemed like it had been cut by a sharp object. The three people's pupils contracted. What kind of technique is this? They couldn't understand what technique Suyu had just used. Even the masked man's pupils contracted. He could only faintly feel a sharp light streak across the palm seal and cut it in half. Even he shivered at the sight of such a sharp light, and his heart skipped a beat for a moment. It was obvious that Suyu had hidden an extremely dangerous technique. Good! The masked man's eyes lit up when he came back to his senses. Delight appeared on his face, and he couldn't help but cheer. Unsightly expressions appeared on the three people's faces. The masked man was reluctant to help them, yet he treated Suyu with the same attitude. "You are qualified." The masked man laughed heartily. When his gaze fell on Yuan Yingying, he hesitated for a moment before saying, "But, it seems like this young lady didn't do anything. What I asked for was assistance, not a burden." Yuan Yingying took a step forward and spoke in a simple and honest manner. "Senior, I'm good at another aspect. Can you let me attack you?" "Another aspect?" The masked man pondered it for a moment, then nodded and said, "Fine, you can try." Hiss. All of a sudden, the corners of the masked man's mouth twitched, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. His expression became grave, and he swept the surroundings with his sharp gaze. "Who is it?" "It's me, Senior." Yuan Yingying blinked her eyes. She was somewhat speechless. The masked man's expression stiffened, and his gaze locked onto Yuan Yingying. His expression became grave as he said, "You are a soul." He cast a glance at the three people, but didn't continue speaking. Delight appeared on his face once again as he said, "Good. Ha! Both of your performances exceeded my expectations by a lot. I will leave this mission to you two." Shock appeared on the three people's faces. "Sir, we want to spar with them." It was obvious that there was only one mission, and only one group of people could accept it. Suyu looked at them calmly, then flicked the chaos multicolored butterflies silk with his finger. Yuan Yingying didn't pay any attention to them, and she just looked at Suyu.